Coming up on this episode of Belief Hole.
Like, I remember riding on the school bus in the fall in Ohio, and as Halloween was approaching, and just that magical feeling, just a magical feeling of like anything was possible. You can smell the leaves burning and the bonfires, and you knew like soon you'd be telling ghost stories by the fire, and yeah, that was the magic. Wait, the Ouija board told him to build the factory, and then he ends up falling off of it.
Yep, from the roof.
Should have gone with the magic 8 ball.
Should have gone with the magic 8 ball every time. Yeah.
Ugh. I don't think I look like a bird. Well,
sometimes you do. The light strikes you right.
Sometimes you're my twin brother.
Well,
how do I, if
you're more gaunt.
Okay, well then that doesn't make you a
Gaunt.
penguin? I mean, what was so creepy about that is like the idea of like walking through it and then it looks at you after you pass through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like that's just a weird, and I love that he had to go to the bathroom. When nature calls.
I would have stayed in bed and pissed my pants. I would have laid and peed my bed. Would not have walked through a disincarnated spirit in the doorway. I think I just would have pissed myself.
I remember Dad told us the story that when he read that book, he slept with a baseball bat. As if he's gonna like fight a demon with a baseball bat, but
It didn't work
batter
too well.
up.
I mean, it has the same level of creepiness. It's just way more involved, which makes it even creepier. You're ritualizing something. You're summoning something, it seems like.
Well, that's the whole point, yeah.
You're putting so much emphasis on
Right, your intention is to bring something forth.
And that willful choice to let something in or to communicate with something, like that is the start of something dark.
Let's do it.
No, thank you. Conspiracy.
Synchronicity. Sasquatch.
Donald Trump.
Alien races. Satanism in Hollywood. MK Ultra.
Pleiadians.
Mandela effect.
Close the door, Ed.
Jeremy, close your door!
Snowflakes.
Inner Earth. Disagreements.
My lab.
JFK assassination.
Flat Earth.
Corey Feldman. Magicians are demons. Specters and spooks. Sleep paralysis. Muslim Islamicists. The gender spectrum. Yes. Alternative history. Shadow people.
Quiet, I'm trying to say words with the mouth.
Psilocybin. Sorcery. Poltergeist. Sulforaphane. Evolution. Is it real?
Skull and Bone. I would never talk about it. That's old. Y2K.
Cover-ups. The Oklahoma City bombing. Vampire.
Hi.
Wow, that was intense.
It's really loud.
Yeah. Well, hello.
Well, hello.
Hello. Welcome, listeners, to episode 8 of Belief Hole. We're going to be discussing Ouija board communication and spirit channeling. Creepy stuff.
And yeah, channeling, you said that, right?
I just said it. You just said that.
Good, yes.
Yes, Ouija boards, the methods of contacting. Yeah, I think in the first part we're going to get into the kind of the interesting history of some of the methods of spirit communication. And then in the second half, John, we're going to maybe get less dark.
There it is.
Look at the positive potential side.
Yeah, we'll be looking at some channeling, but it has a mix of the channel specifically I'm talking about will talk about how to overcome the darkness.
Right.
So
a little more of an uplift on the spiritual soul.
There's some bright sides.
It's a dichotomy.
There's some brightness in the belief hole. You just gotta dig for it, you know?
It's got to stick around for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Hour and a half. I'm thinking this is going to be like a 3-hour long show.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Maybe not.
Buckle up.
Well, what do you guys want out there? Do you want a long show? Do you want a short show?
That's what I keep
More
hearing.
content, the better.
Well, I was bummed we couldn't find the Ouija board. That would have been good to place out here for the episode.
Yeah, let's give a little shout out to Unky John.
Yeah, Uncle John. I didn't realize it, but we planned our Ouija board episode on the birthday of our
uncle who passed away, sadly, a few years ago.
He would have loved this show.
He would have loved this show. He definitely was someone who kind of injected the ideas of the paranormal and mysteries of the universe into our brains.
Fascination of the unknown. That was from Uncle John.
It's definitely from Uncle John, yeah. So
Miss that man.
Here's to you, Uncle John, episode 8 for you.
Happy birthday, John. We hope you enjoy the episode.
We won't try to contact you because you'd probably say, well, be careful, boys. Be careful doing that.
I could be a fake.
Yes. I might be a demon, don't
Uncle
believe
John,
it.
feel free to whisper into one of our microphones and leave an EVP
Yeah,
for
that'd
us.
be cool.
Or just keep the demons away, if you could.
Yeah.
That'd be helpful.
That'd be good, too.
Speaking of EVP demons, John, did you listen to that thing I sent you? That I was hoping we could play?
Oh, yeah, the computer thing?
Yeah, so I had a weird situation this morning. And I mean, it could be nothing at all, but
This is why you were prepping for the show, right?
I was just kind of like going over my notes this morning, and I'd been studying till about 3 a.m. last night, the devil's hour, and fell asleep. And I came back out to just kind of organize everything, and my computer was making this weird electrical humming, buzzing. And it's weird because it's a solid state computer, so there's no hard drive winding, there's nothing like that. And yeah, sometimes you could hear like interference occasionally, I guess if you have monitor speakers hooked up or whatever, but I've just never heard a sound like this. And I thought it was creepy to the point that like I got out my cellular device and I recorded it just because I thought maybe we'll get something.
This isn't your recording though,
It's
is it?
mine.
Oh, this is yours?
From this morning.
Oh, that is creepy.
Yeah, it was especially creepy because you walked into my room when I was sleeping and just played it into my ear. That was terrifying.
I thought that you found this somewhere and you were like, this sounds kind of like what I heard, but this is the actual recording.
I got out my phone and recorded it.
Yeah, it's very ghostly. It
sounds like it's...
Let's take a listen. You want to?
Yeah, I just wanted to say real quick that it was bizarre because it stopped only after I recorded it. It was like it said what it had to say.
Oh,
as soon as I was done recording it.
Maybe it was Uncle John.
Yeah,
maybe.
I don't know. It doesn't sound as friendly.
It doesn't sound very friendly.
It doesn't sound... Well, you guys will hear it. It's very digital sounding, but I've just never heard anything like this, and it's weird.
It's why you were researching for the Ouija episode.
The morning of our Ouija board episode when I had my research left up overnight.
Cool sound regardless, but let's play it.
Yeah, play it up.
Yeah, very, it sounds like exactly what you'd hear
Yeah, like if it was some
in a movie.
electrical
like
demon trying to talk to you.
It almost sounds, there's a hint of organicness in there, almost like animalistic sound. The way that
the changing of frequencies.
Yeah. I mean,
did you ever
definitely
see
digital.
Signal? Was it Signal, the movie?
I was just thinking that Contact or
Frequency.
Was it Frequency? Or was that the one where he travels in time?
Frequency.
I'm talking about the one that was
Michael
like...
Keaton?
Yeah.
White Noise.
Was it White Noise?
Yeah, White Noise. Well,
I think all those other ones were movies too, but they just didn't have
I was thinking of
same idea.
Contact when they get the signal from the aliens and it does that like...
Yeah.
Cool. Maybe it was aliens reaching us. You know, that's going to come into the end of our channeling
That's true.
session today.
The multidimensional
Session,
universe.
by the way, I just said session. Did you know that that's what seance means in French?
Session?
It just means session.
Oh.
So really, if you're going to a movie, they refer to it as like a movie seance over there. So it's like a session of a movie.
This is a podcast seance. Every
Every
time
time we sit down in a circle, it's just a seance.
Weird.
If you're French. But for us, it's not because we're not French, but you know.
Feels we're not French. You can't tell by our accents.
We need ghosts to use the French language for things like that. So.
Just to be extra mysterious.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, that's probably, extremely coincidental that it happened to be this morning that I picked that up. And I'd never heard that before coming out of my computer. It was just bizarre.
Yeah, it was pretty creepy sound.
Yeah, I just thought I'd catch
What's interesting, and maybe this isn't as interesting as that, especially since there's no audio recording.
It's probably not.
Probably not. But I did have, realized that late last night I was doing my research, last minute, 3 a.m. Well, I've been dealing with this issue where my mouse was jumping around all over the screen. I couldn't control it. It was zooming into windows, and I realized it was because earlier that day we met for the meeting on spirit communication, and that one weird storm cloud came over during the sunny day and started drizzling. Remember that at the coffee shop?
Yeah.
It messed up my trackpad. So the rest of my day researching was like impossible. And then the only reason it reminded me of the Ouija board itself was because the mouse was moving on its own.
Oh, like a planchette
on a Ouija board. So it just reminded me of that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's what it was, but
Too bad it just
a weird
annoyed the
coincidence.
crap out of you instead of
just a
giving
weird
you
coincidence that we're doing an episode on Ouija communication, spirit communication, and then one random storm cloud comes in and drizzles just for like a second of rain on just enough to make my mouse move on its own. I just thought it was interesting. It's funny,
Spooky.
Yes.
Spooky. That was the sound clip. That was not live, Jeremy.
Got to make sure you explain it.
It wasn't me this time.
Anyway,
Spooky.
yeah.
That is... Yeah.
John, did you have any weird things happen that were
happened
probably
to you
nothing,
today, John?
but were a little strange?
Just make something up.
Did your balls itch in a weird, kind of paranormal way?
That's crude, Chris.
My sock danced for me this morning.
No.
What does that mean?
My sock got up and danced.
I do not believe you.
Why did you not
For
lead
some
with
reason.
that? That's a leading story.
That's a whole
No,
episode.
I don't have any.
Sock dancers.
I'm trying to think. Has anything creepy happened? No.
Oh, good. The other
not
weird
that
thing
I-
that happened last night was that something broke in my fan. It was just, it was just scary.
Chris is scared of everything.
It was like,
Chris closes the
I was
closets
trying to
at
sleep.
night.
I was trying to sleep. I was thinking about everything I was researching. All of a sudden, there's this like crack, bang, schlang-a-lang-a-lang-a-lang-a-lang, like nonstop intense noise coming from my fan. It's, I don't know, what's something broke internally.
Yeah.
It was, I'm sure, just a mechanical error.
In your courage box, something
My
broke.
courage box.
And that's when you texted me from the other room. Wait, can you come in here?
I did. It was like 4 a.m. I was like, are you awake? I need you to come in.
Because I can't fight this demon alone.
Listen, I need backup.
And I fixed it.
Cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
Anyway, so I'm a pussy.
Rock and roll. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So, I mean, creepy today stuff aside, we gave it a couple speak pipes while we were on hiatus.
Yeah, some really good ones.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
cool that people took the time to send in a message.
Yeah, super motivating and encouraging, and wants to make us,
And
make us keep digging the hole.
And you can leave one too. Just go to beliefhole.com and leave a creepy message or a creepy message.
I know where you live.
We're stalking you. A ghost story or something creepy that happened to you, or just a comment on the show. It's open 24 hours a day.
All the day.
Never closed.
Yeah, we got some good write-ins and a couple good speak pipes, and we'll share them later on in the episode.
Yeah. So that's coming up. But right now we're going to be talking about the Ouija board and
in the history thereof.
the history of the Ouija board. And I want to make a quick point as we go through the show that there are different and probably a correct pronunciation of the Ouija board, which apparently is the Ouija board, which a lot of people pronounce it as. But for the sake of my childhood, I will refer to it from here on as
the Ouija board.
the Ouija board, because that's what we always call
That's
it.
the Northeast Ohio
Northeast Ohio.
pronunciation.
It's just better.
Yeah, I think so. Ouija.
Ouija.
Hey, it's a Ouija. What you want?
It's easier to say than an Ouija board.
I don't think Ouija is correct.
Ouija.
Especially since the naming process is pretty suspect to begin with, which I will get into.
Awesome.
What is the naming process? Do you want to
Well, I can jump ahead to that, or we can just go through kind of. I can set the stage for you if you would like.
just let the spirits guide you into the story of the Ouija board?
Ouija board.
Cue crickets.
Ooh, I like that. Okay, so to understand the need for such a device, you have to consider the time period. So, right before the Civil War, spiritualism was pretty popular in Europe, but in America, it was kind of frowned upon. Like the idea of communing and talking with spirits was kind of sketchy.
Yeah.
But once the Civil War happened and we lost countless lives and our country was kind of thrust into this like somber state of existence and death was like on the minds of everyone all the time. You already had the extremely low age limit for people living. I think 50 was the average, but like after the Civil War, it was just tragic sadness. And the spiritualism movement got a big boost really when Mary Todd Lincoln, the mother of the nation, lost her son, William, at like 11 years old to a fever.
Who is this?
Mary Todd Lincoln, the wife of Abe Lincoln.
Oh, okay.
Abraham.
They lost their son. I think he was like 11, William. She decided to utilize this new movement in America after the Civil War, the spiritualism movement, to have seances in the Red Room. The Red Room.
The Red Room.
The bloody room.
In the Red Room of the White House.
You think this happened because people wanted answers? They wanted like...
Absolutely, yeah. It was
so many people
it
lost
was,
their-
Yeah, it was a mixture of like people lost people rapidly in large numbers. That and
Some
also
closure, maybe.
Yeah, closure, and I think people were just generally afraid. At that point, with that much death all around, I think the fear of death was kind of at an all-time high, at least in the United States.
Yeah, people wanted hope, I'm sure.
Right, that's
Losing
what
their communities.
Yeah, so it kind of became this phenomenon in the States, and it became like a regular thing. And with Christian families even, it wasn't like this demonic device.
Taboo.
It was a parlor game. It was a way to commune with spirits, feel a little comfort, and maybe have some fun in the taverns. Mary Todd Lincoln is having these in the Red Room of the White House with Abe Lincoln is in attendance. The president of the country is there in these seances.
Oh.
So it really became kind of accepted. But the problem with mediums and these seances were kind of twofold. The first problem was the cost. Like you had to have a medium come in. You had to pay them a lot of money to communicate to these spirits because you can't do it on your own. It's kind of that idea of, before the Bible was printed in English, or German rather, it was just Latin. So common folk couldn't read the Bible. Kind of the same thing with you can't talk to spirits.
You need to go through a priest.
Unless you have a special person, a special medium who has the divine gift.
What a skill.
The gatekeeper.
The gatekeeper. Yeah. So because of that, and also because of the fact that it took so long to get answers from spirits. So for example, you'd have a seance and the medium would be saying, okay, we're going to ask a question. Is her son Billy okay? And then she would go through the alphabet to get a paragraph of information. So, all right, do you want to start with the letter A? Knock for A.
Oh my
gosh. And they would go through the whole thing.
Whole
Talk
alphabet.
about tedious.
Yeah, so exactly. And this is the age of like the
Can we get an A in the room?
Our first advancement in instant communication had come, like the telegraph. People are kind of already getting like, okay, instant communication.
Yeah, let's
we
move
can
this
talk to
along.
someone in, Tennessee and I'm in Ohio. Why can't I talk to the dead?
Yeah.
So subtly you started hearing these whispers of this new phenomenon called the talking board. That's where the Ouija board comes from initially. It was this kind of, it's a mystery. The origin's a mystery. No one knows who invented it. It just spread throughout the country.
Like the original idea.
The original idea. People were hand making these boards, but they all had the same thing, and they're basically the same as they are today. It was the alphabet. You had a yes, a no, and a goodbye.
Well, that's one of the rules of the Ouija board, right? That you have to say goodbye.
You have to say goodbye.
Because if you don't, it doesn't leave.
Something might stay with you, yeah.
Okay.
Interesting, the first reports came out of Ohio. So they think that's where it originated, in our home state. Just kind of interesting.
Cool.
And we can't find ours.
And we
There
can't
should be
find our Ouija
1,000
board.
hanging around. Neat. Neat. It's so weird to hear me.
Anyway, so you had this kind of this thing kind of popping up in taverns. People were playing it, and then there's one guy who was a very keen businessman. He's like, "This would make a great parlor game. We can make this a toy." So Charles Kennard got with a local lawyer that he knew, whose sister-in-law was a medium, and so they brought the board to her. She asked it, "What should we call you?" And according to the story, it's spelled out Ouija, or Ouija, however you want to say it.
Ouija?
Ouija.
So
Ouija.
the board itself gave the medium its own name, supposedly?
Interesting.
Oh, that's interesting.
Gave the board, the board gave itself its own name.
Weren't there some other ideas for how the board was?
Okay, so the common misconception is that "oui" stands for the French yes, and "je," the German yes. And you hear that all the time.
Yeah.
But that's actually incorrect.
Yes, yes?
It's yes. But it was just a name that the board said. Or that you could argue the medium made up,
Well,
depending on what you believe.
That came from the Smithsonian, right? Weren't you reading an article?
Yeah, this is it. Yeah, I kind of got a lot of this from, there's a really good Smithsonian article I'll reference in the show notes. But
Interesting. While they're hiding the Ark of the Covenant and the giants of old.
Yeah, well, they interviewed, there's a guy, and he'll be in the show notes too, but he wrote a whole book on it. He's been researching the history of the Ouija board since 1992. So he found a lot of the stuff because it was fascinating to him, because for something that was such a big thing in pop culture, no one knows where it came from. So he kind of started digging.
Well, it makes sense. 92? That was like the height of Nickelodeon and Are You Afraid of the Dark?
I know. There's a great commercial we should
Probably
play.
a surge of interest at that
There's
time.
a great commercial we should play.
Neat.
Of the Ouija board.
Oh, did you get... Just stop it. It's so weird to hear myself back as a sound effect.
That wasn't Jeremy again? I was so confused.
Neat. Eventually, you're just going to have a whole soundboard of my voice. I don't even need to be here.
a lot. Damn it! Hey, you can tell him that to him.
Yeah, I don't like
That's
that. I don't
great.
like myself as being a dick to me.
You're talking a lot.
Stop it, me. Jerk. Guy's a dick.
Anywho, but yeah, so it was successful back then. It became this big phenomenon when they actually patented and made it a game. That was the patent, in fact, was an interesting thing, because they had to take it to the patent office, and the patent office would not allow them to patent it unless they proved that it worked. So the patent clerk that was there apparently had a really strange name that was difficult to spell. He had them ask the board and demonstrate.
Yeah.
Okay, what's my name? Spell out my name. And the board did it, and apparently he had, he was white-faced and shocked and allowed the patent to go through.
So the patent office required the board to work?
Yes.
And it is documented that it worked?
Yeah, this is all on record. Whether or not, the guy, you could argue that the lawyer who was one of the investors maybe knew the patent lawyer who was there
There's
and
an
happened to know
inside
his
job.
name. You could argue those things, but according to the family history, according to all the records, and according to the court records or the patent clerk records, yeah, they had to prove that it worked, and according to those accounts, it actually, in that one example, it did actually work.
What happened to
Which is kind of fascinating.
the guy who pitched the magic 8-ball and had to patent that? Or yeah, this has to work though. But let me shake it.
Well, who knows?
Not today.
Your future is unclear. Well, that seems accurate.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? And it could have been it was back in the mid 1800s. It could have been like patent clerk office to patent clerk office. There was different regulations on who, what the guy's going to let something go through or not. Who knows?
There's uppity Chicago patent offices. Let's see this thing work.
But I thought that was interesting. And they didn't give a reason on how it worked or why it worked, and they didn't have to. They just had to show that it worked.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Started off on the right foot.
So as you might expect, it got really popular, and they ended up opening factories in Chicago, New York, yada, yada. So after kind of the main guys died off, there was a guy that took over the company. Interesting thing about that was he died in a freak accident.
Wait, the guy who took over the company?
Yeah, Feld, however you pronounce his name. He was kind of given all the shares at the end.
Oh, I heard about that guy when I was doing some research. Did he fall off?
He fell off the roof of the factory that, according to him,
Feld.
the Ouija board told him to build
it.
Yeah, which is kind of interesting. It kind of...
Wait, the Ouija board told him to build the factory, and then he ends up falling off of it.
Yep, from the roof.
Oh. Should have gone with the magic 8-ball.
Should have gone with the magic 8-ball every time. Yeah.
Ugh.
I mean, obviously, it could be free accident, but interesting.
As you might guess, the stories that will come forward in this episode related to the Ouija board will be slightly dark stories that usually end in something like falling off a building.
Well, that's what's interesting. Like
misery.
So it wasn't so much of this kind of negative idea in the country when it was very popular initially.
Yeah.
Through like the Depression and Prohibition, people kind of looked at it as a way to not just escape, but kind of like look for hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, just having a connection with the other side.
Yeah. Catholics in particular, they kind of had some issues with it, but not a lot of Protestant families had issues with the Ouija board. It wasn't such a big idea that it was the gates of hell or a passageway that demonic influence could come through. That really didn't happen in a large way until the movie The Exorcist in the 1970s. Like when that movie came out, which most people forget, one of the first scenes in that movie is a scene with a Ouija board.
Oh,
And,
right. Oh, that's how. But that's based off a real
Captain
story.
Howdy or something. It's like,
that's based off a real story, right?
yeah,
And
which The Exorcist is based off a real story.
And
but
that actually,
right, it propagated this idea that the Ouija board could in fact be a tool used by some dark entities to come through under the pretense of being a helpful or friendly spirit.
Yeah, it's like sort of like vampires where you have to invite them.
Right, invite
Come
them in, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's right, exactly. That was the beginning of watch out for the Ouija board. You know, that, at least, I mean, it's not completely true because there are older accounts in here I'll read where some dark stuff happened because of the Ouija board that well predated The Exorcist. But that's when it became
Hysteria.
hysteria. Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. Like I wasn't aware of that. I didn't even remember that being a scene in The Exorcist. But I guess that was
right at the
kind of
beginning?
that's how it gets into.
Well, that was
the
such a
devil gets
culture.
in.
That movie was such a cultural phenomenon too. Like it was like Jaws or something.
Oh,
It
yeah.
changed the
yeah.
the psyche of the populace. It was
Yeah.
I remember Dad told us the story that when he read that book, he slept with a baseball bat, as if he's gonna like fight a demon with a baseball bat. But it
didn't work too
batter
well.
up. But it's weird thinking the idea of like reading a book and it being that scary that like you're gonna.
Well, especially then too. Like, I mean, media was still in its infancy. It's like when new ideas came out in a way that they were that powerful, it was like gripping.
Oh yeah.
You had to wait for things.
Yeah,
and
you
it
weren't
was-
flooded with
You weren't
all
flooded
this
with
stuff.
5 million horror movies at once. It was
Right.
like that you can dwell on it and
Yeah.
let it sort of simmer in your mind. and,
ruminate.
like, ruminate, yes.
Marinate.
and
Oh,
creep,
they
creep people out.
pushed a lot of boundaries on that show for sure. And that would be an interesting.
Oh, good Lord, they did.
One
yeah.
day I would like to do an episode on film curses, like creepy shit that happens around films, because I'm pretty sure The Exorcist has some strange
Exorcist 1 and
accounts.
2, like the sequels do too. A lot of people died, a lot of mishaps. That would be cool to do a episode on that.
Yeah, there's so many films
I
out
think
there.
that one's one of the more well-known where it seems to follow people like
Yeah.
years later.
Yeah.
Like, was it Linda Blair?
Yeah.
Is that the name of the actress?
The girl, yeah.
She had a lot of problems though, I thought, after that
Linda
movie.
Blair?
Yeah. For years and years. I remember her. We'll have to look into that more.
Yeah, that would be interesting to do. But it's interesting because the original, like in real life, the story was based off of, I think it was a boy. A little boy, wasn't it?
Really? I don't remember exactly.
Pretty sure.
And yeah, interesting thing about that experience, and we kind of talked about this before on the last episode, but the Shadow People episode, the idea that if you have a strong faith in your religion, like you're going to be safe from this stuff. Like for that specific example, exorcisms,
Right.
it's gonna fix you. You're gonna get out of it somehow. But I think in the case that's based on after, and we should look that up for sure. But I'm pretty sure the child died through the exorcism experience.
Oh, really?
Because it never got out of her. I mean, you could argue
Him.
like, well,
I think it was him.
him or her. But you could argue that like, well, that was, it's abuse of the church and abuse of a crazy faith that believes in spirits and demon possession. You could also argue that the demonic influence was real there, but her faith didn't save her in the end. At least
Right.
not completely. I mean, she did die from her, who knows what happened afterwards, but
It's also a child, right, too?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it seems like a vulnerable person where I don't even know if children can really fully express what faith is at that age.
Right. Yeah, as a child, you open yourself up to, a number of things, even in the non-spiritual world, non-supernatural world, and you're susceptible more than an adult would
Yeah,
be.
you're not a fully formed being yet. You're
right.
still
How much will do you have, really?
or understanding of the world in
or
general.
intention. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
You're more of an
definitely
open book a little bit.
That's why I would imagine they get preyed upon.
Yeah, well, especially in that puberty realm, right?
Yeah, when things are topsy-turvy inside the body.
Hormones run amok. Yeah.
emotions.
The days of Carrie.
The days of Carrie. Well, that's so you always hear that argument or that concept that potentially a lot of poltergeist activity you can attribute to like preteens in the home,
Right.
Where so much psychokinetic energy or whatever's going on because of the fluctuating hormones and, emotions and hypersensitive states.
And the innocence and vulnerability.
Yeah, it's that change. There. Yeah, it's that time of change, in between. Mm-hmm. It's the transformation.
We're not going to go to the satanic sacrifices, but it seems to be a hot age too.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too, is even if it's just some negative energy, it seems like that kind of value of an innocent, and that's told throughout time, like, Little Red Riding Hood, whatever, like the innocence. Even in Aleister Crowley's, the blood of a male child is the purest form of sacrifice or whatever.
It seems sexist.
It does a little bit. The little kid
was, why the male child?
So yeah, it seems like there is this theme of like that innocent. And I think it's interesting that around the time of puberty, when stuff like that seems to happen, that's a time of internal chaos, emotional chaos, and the idea of like the choices that you make at that time, you're given more responsibility. You're starting to realize like the world has more weight to it. And there's a lot of parallels in literature or even biblically, like the idea of like being presented with the temptation and whether choosing yes or no, and that willful choice to let something in or to communicate with something, like that is the start of something dark potentially.
It's interesting too, because who are the people that use the Ouija board the most? Teenagers, adolescents. They're searching for something that tells them there's more to life than the physical, what they see.
Well, maybe not even but young adults, I would say. When you're still, looking to have fun and something new and exciting.
I think anywhere between like middle school and, like college years.
And we'll get into that. We'll get into that later, actually, because
the college years.
We'll get into that later, actually, because part of what I'm going to be talking about are these creepy, mostly like adolescent played games right now that are really popular. Since we were a kid, we had games like this that were popular, and I'll get into that.
But Red Door, White Door?
Yeah, it does seem like there's this kind of like initiation / group bonding / experiencing with the dark side of the world that your parents won't tell you about. All of that comes together, and there are these games out there that could be getting you in touch with, potentially malevolent forces.
Also, I think
or your dark or your inner psyche that you may not be ready to.
Yeah, and I think you could also argue that it's kind of like your last ditch effort to find some magic in the world. Like you've already been told at that point, Santa Claus doesn't exist. Magic isn't real.
Easter Bunny's gone.
Dragons aren't real. Dragons were never around. And all
your
the fun
vote
stuff
doesn't matter.
Your vote doesn't matter.
Religion's starting to feel a little.
You're starting to question your faith if you have one. It's that time where you're just searching for some sort of evidence that there's more than the material. And I think. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. Well, and that was also the funnest time. Like, as we were on our way here today, like, it's starting to get closer to fall. A school bus passed by.
Oh, the smell of bonfires.
Like, I remember riding on the school bus in the fall in Ohio, and as Halloween was approaching, and just that magical feeling. Just a magical feeling of, like, anything was possible. You can smell the leaves burning and the bonfires, and you knew, like soon you'd be telling ghost stories by the fire, and we used to play those creepy games on the bus that I'm going to talk about later.
Sneak and Spike
The kids are
cider.
still playing today that relate to that. It's just, that was the magic.
Did you have more on the Ouija board?
That pretty much wraps it up. I was going to...
Did you want to tell us? There were some interesting stories.
Yeah, there were some interesting anecdotes. I just thought...
real-life cases?
Real-life cases where people were seemingly influenced, or at least relayed the fact that they were influenced to do really extreme things based on what the Ouija board had told them to do.
These are like historical
documented accounts, or at least, from the perpetrators, rationale. This is what they said, why they did certain things. So I thought I would read a few of those, see if they're interesting or not. But
okay.
In 1921, the New York Times reported that a Chicago woman being sent to a psychiatric hospital tried to explain to doctors that she wasn't suffering from mania, but that Ouija spirits had told her to leave her mother's body in the living room for 15 days before burying her in the backyard. Creepy.
Ding.
And next one.
Toast done.
No response.
Scary stories.
Toast is done.
Sorry, I don't know. Can you... So what happened exactly? I'm sorry.
Did I read that too fast?
I think I just know your voice so well that when you read it, I just can't follow what you're saying. Yeah. Slow it down a little.
So we don't need to read it for you again.
Well, that's true.
Like, hopefully...
Basically,
I got it.
This is for me. Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you have more of these stories, too,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm. We should probably dissect everyone for 10 minutes.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, you're just, I know. Listen to my words.
Okay.
Listen to my words.
Come to the talkie box. Approach it.
Okay. In 1930, newspaper readers thrilled to accounts of two women in Buffalo, New York, who'd murdered another woman, supposedly on the encouragement of Ouija board messages. And what does that remind you of? To me, that reminded me of Slender Man.
Oh, yeah.
Like just that idea that like something, whether real or not.
That was a detailed account.
Yeah.
Well, these are just
They're
bullet
really
points.
short.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're just really
I've
short.
got some more detailed ones later that are modern.
these are just quick little anecdotes that are, they occurred.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They occurred.
They occurred.
This has occurred.
They occurred. In 1941, a 23-year-old gas station attendant from New Jersey told the New York Times that he had joined the Army because the Ouija board told him to.
Oh, patriotic demon there.
Mistake. What year was that?
Mistake. What happened to him?
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of dangerous. It must have been World War II, so, I mean, good for him.
I mean, was there like
a noble cause?
Was there some sort of police report associated with that? Or was it
That
just
was
like,
the end of it.
hey, Mom,
He
Ouija
told
board
the
told me
New
I'm
York-
going
he
to
just told
war.
the- told the New York Times. I don't know why the New York Times asked him.
So bizarre.
Hey, Bub, why'd you join the Army? Well, the Ouija board.
Newsworthy event.
Okay, well, maybe that wasn't great. Let's move on to the next one. In 1958, a Connecticut court decided not to honor the Ouija board will, quote unquote, of Mrs. Helen Doe Peck, who left only $1,000 to two former servants and an insane $152,000 to Mr. John Gale Forbes, a lucky but bodiless spirit who'd contacted her via the Ouija board.
So she left it to a
supposed
spirit?
A spirit on the Ouija board was like, hey, leave me some money.
So where does that money go?
I don't know. I guess it just stays in limbo until he
perpetuity?
manifests in another incarnation. I don't know how that would work.
That's bizarre.
Yeah, she's probably nuts.
Probably not. That's probably real.
Okay, and then I just have a couple here that are, this is a little different. These are kind of interesting. These were writers who published works of literature dictated to them from the Ouija board.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah.
That would take a long time, I would think.
Yeah.
It's a form of channeling, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So in 1916, Mrs. Pearl Curran made headlines when she began writing poems and stories that she claimed were dictated via Ouija board by the spirit of a 17th century English woman called Patience Worth.
I like that name.
Emily Grant Hutchings claimed that her book, Jap Heron, was communicated via Ouija board by the late Samuel Clemens, better known as who?
Mark Twain.
Mark Twain. This one I thought was the most interesting because of the acclaim. James Merrill in 1982 had an epic Ouija-inspired and dictated poem, The Changing Light at Sandover. It won the National Book Critics Circle Award. Merrill, for his part, publicly implied that the Ouija board acted more as a magnifier for his own poetic thoughts rather than as hotline to the spirits. But that's what you would say, right? If a spirit wrote it.
Yeah.
You'd be, well, it was all me.
It was
but,
mostly me. I mean, I got a little help.
A little help from the
From the
spirits. Yeah, that was pretty much it. I thought it said Nobel Prize, but I guess it was just the National Book Critics Circle Award, whatever that is. I'm sure it was
good.
great,
That's
Mr. James Merrill.
Mr. James.
I'll have to check it out. It's a great title. I like that title a lot. The Changing Light at Sandover.
I do too.
Very pretty.
Was
Cool.
it a good poem?
I don't know. I haven't read it.
Nope.
So the last thing I listed on here, and we could touch on this later if you want. Don't want to touch on it now, but it's just kind of the skeptic's response.
Yeah, the skepticism
Did
about
you want
it.
to wait till we get to your stuff to talk about that? Because there's just like a couple little facts. We can do it then if you want.
Yeah, let's
Let's
build
say
the
that-
story
say
more.
that,
I feel
okay.
like we're not in it quite enough
Yeah.
yet to have a retort.
Yeah, that's pretty much. Do you have any questions about? I mean, there might be some.
Are you asking the
parts of
audience? Do you guys have any
Well, they're not
questions?
here. There's no hotline.
Raise your
that's live.
voice
so
hand.
No, I don't have any questions.
I'm
about
asking the spirits.
history.
Spirits, do you have any questions about the history?
Charlie, are you here?
So we're solid on the history. You guys don't have any questions?
I'm
Was
solid.
that
Will there be a
enthralling?
test?
Was that
Are you
enthralling?
solid on the history?
I mean,
It was good. No,
Yeah,
I thought it was really interesting. There were a lot
it
of
was
interesting
good.
stuff in there that I did not know
Some interesting stuff.
good stuff.
about the Ouija board.
Someday it might be cool to go into like more of the history on spiritualism in general.
If anyone would like to go to our website, belieful.com, and leave a speak pipe about how Chris could do better next time,
Oh, don't invite them in.
don't let them in. It's about your intention.
Speaking of business, as we
Yes.
right before we go to the break,
First break.
yeah, we just want to just give a little shameless self-promotion, ways that you can interact with us. We do have our Patreon up now.
Yes, it is up.
You can actually sign up for that, and you will get some bonus content.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
as of right now, there's the first unicorn episode up there right now.
Yeah, so that's the plan, is to be able to put more content up there. If you have some extra cash and you feel like supporting the show,
Yeah, if you want to, instead of buying a coffee, you want to throw us $3 for a Patreon membership, or $30, or
yeah,
$192,
we have a donate button
or $3.
on beliefhole.com if you feeling very generous.
Yes.
Also, if you don't have any extra cash, but you'd still
So like,
you'd
you don't
still
have any cash on you. Well, we do take check on the MasterCard.
No, I'm just saying if you want to support the show in other ways, you can leave us a review on iTunes.
Yes.
We also have Instagram and Facebook accounts. You can follow us that way.
Go to YouTube. We do post our show there. You can
YouTube.
go to the Shadow People episode and respond to that asshole who left us a negative comment.
He was not an asshole. He just had
good
some
Lord,
strong
Jeremy.
thoughts.
I hate him. I hate him.
Or one negative comment.
I can't take it. I quit.
Yeah.
No,
so,
check us out wherever we are, and
Yeah, interact. Speak.
I want to say thank you for everyone who has so far. Like we've had really great messages.
some really
friendly
solid
people.
messages from really intelligent, interesting people.
Yeah, I'm really actually. No, I don't want to say surprised, but I want to say that I'm pleasantly
know
thrilled.
what you're gonna get
Yeah, you
right
know, you put up
away.
something where people are just going to write in or call in, and you're like, well, it's going to bring out the crazies, or you don't know what kind of people they're going to be. But we had like everyone that's called like the Speak Pipe so far, and all the messages have been like really
encouraging.
Top notch.
Yeah.
It's
And,
nice
like,
to have intelligent
bright
fans out
people
there.
that are just like funny, smart. Yeah, so big thank you to Mike.
Mike, my good high school friend, awesome, very generous donation.
Super generous donation. Ron on Patreon.
Ron, our one patron
Our
so far.
first patron.
Thank you, guys. He will be the only one so far listening to a full feature-length, awesome Saturn Death Cult episode that is now available on Patreon.
Yeah, so get it while it's hot.
Yes.
Get it.
Patreon, we have more content. So subscribe if you want it.
Thank you, Ron.
Another thanks to Ashley for her kind words. Trisha, who, if you go to our latest episode, wrote like a lot of extra information about.
On our site, yeah, really detailed information, kind of going off the last episode we did, and she touched on a lot of more spiritual, metaphysical side of some of the topics.
People definitely filling us in places that were not 100% accurate is always nice.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we want to bring up interesting information and let it, fester in people's brain holes. But we're not going to be experts. So anyone who wants to write in and share their stuff, that's awesome. Huge thanks to we're gonna play the Speak Pipes coming up here, but the two Speak Pipes we had were great.
Huge thanks.
Huge thanks
Thank you
for making that extra effort of actually
for jumping into a volcano of doom.
yes into the empty bottomless, hopefully not empty, bottomless pit of the belief hole.
I think is that it for now?
Oh yeah, Rachel.
Yeah, Rachel, thank you for your recent communication with us, leaving us really positive feedback and some interesting conspiracy issues to look into.
Yeah.
Let's play that Speak Pipe from Justin that, John, you built into kind of a little bit of a soundscape behind that, because I thought that was a really cool story.
Yeah, we'll play that over the break, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, dude.
Hi, Chris, Jeremy, and John, in no particular order. It's Justin from Australia. I just wanted to call in and tell you about the ghost I saw when I was a teenager and I was living at my parents' house. I was probably 17 at the time, and sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night and get the feeling that there was something around. And I'd be staring out at my bedroom, looking at the hallway, and this ghost that looked like a three-dimensional shadow would walk up to my doorway, stand there and look in. Now, this happened on and off for a few months. It would just stop there, wait a while, and then walk off. And there was one night where I needed to go to the toilet really badly, so I decided to walk through it to get there. I can still remember how cold it felt to touch. It didn't attack me or anything, it just turned around to look at me after I passed through it. My brother, he also saw it as well, standing in the doorway of his room. He was pretty skeptical about it, and he described it exactly the same way that was what I saw. A man that looked like he'd been coloured in with black marker, but was still semi-transparent. So to cut a long story short, I was raised in a religious house, and after it started appearing next to my bed after a while, I started praying. And I prayed that wherever this spirit was meant to be, that God send it there. And after that, I never saw it again. But that wasn't the last time I ever saw a ghost. Anyway, that's my account of what I saw. Hope you enjoyed it, and keep up the good work.
Wow.
Good story.
Great story.
Creepy freaking story.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Justin, for sharing that.
Yeah.
And we appreciate the cliffhanger, too.
I know,
I
yeah.
love that he left it with saying,
What was
that
it?
wasn't the last time I saw a ghost.
Wasn't the last time. Yeah.
Call back,
I'm sure
Justin.
there'll be more from him.
Yeah. I mean, what was so creepy about that is like, well, first of all, the idea of like walking through it and then it turns around, like it looks at you after you pass through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like that's just a weird, and I love that he had to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, I would have.
Nature calls.
I would have
I
stayed
love that
in
he says
bed.
toilet.
No, I
Instead
would have
of,
stayed in
I had
bed
to go
and
pee.
pissed my pants. I would have laid
Yeah.
and peed my bed. Would not have walked through a like disincarnated body spirit in the doorway. I think I just would have pissed
You
myself.
wouldn't have gone to the bathroom and.
Well, you know, there was a weird noise in my room last night, like we were saying earlier, and I stayed in my
You're
bed.
also a pussy.
I am a giant. I'm a giant pussy.
Vagina.
I'm a
Just say
vagina.
vagina. Let's
Sorry.
say nice words.
Vagina.
Yeah, no, but that was a great story, and I also love like the neutrality of like where he wanted God to send the spirit. Like, did you know, catch that?
yeah,
It's like,
wherever
it's like wherever God's gonna send him, just
Take
go ahead
care
and
of
send
it.
him. He wasn't like, exercise you to
It
hell
worked,
or whatever.
though,
No, yeah,
apparently.
I just
Yeah.
like that kind of even-handed.
Or did it? I want to know what
Perspective
happened
on
later.
It's not the last time. Good
Yeah.
story.
Thank
though.
you,
Yeah.
Justin. If you guys have any creepy stories out there, or any Ouija board experiences, since we did an episode on that, we are collecting stories for our upcoming Halloween episodes. So please give us a call or
And
write
if you
in.
have an accent as enjoyable as Justin's,
Yeah, it's delicious.
please call in. I love that. I
We'll
love that
make you
accent.
famous. Yeah, I would love to visit Australia too.
Yeah.
It seems like
Yeah.
such a cool place to.
It's only like a 2-hour flight, I think.
Yeah, it's only like right around the corner.
You know, there is a.
Skip and a jump.
Right under the flat Earth.
I do have a friend in New Zealand. If we can get there, which is pretty close to Australia.
Maybe
It's a
when
little
we're
past Australia.
when we're really doing well with the show, we can travel to.
Yeah,
places
so
and-
this time next year we'll be on a
this
flight
time
to
next year.
Australia. Justin,
exactly.
come on, visit you.
Do we want to play the other speak pipe?
Yeah, we can just do the other one.
Really good speak pipe from Terry.
This is
Oh, yeah,
not. This isn't a story. This is
No,
just
yeah.
more of
Just
a.
a call in.
This was last night at like 11 o'clock. It
Yeah.
was nice while we were researching to get
Terry-
a message.
Terry Warren.
Are we allowed to say last names?
Oh,
We'll just bleep it out. It'll sound cool.
Bleep it
So
up.
I hope you enjoyed that bleep.
Yep.
Terry, bleep.
Hey guys, Terry here, professional disc golfer, Glober agnostic. I discovered your podcast on Allcast, and I have to say, it's a real hoot and a half.
yes.
I look forward to listening to you guys to and from work every day. So please keep the show going and keep up the good work. I would be really curious and interested to hear your thoughts and opinions on these people opening portals with certain audio frequencies. I believe in the 525 hertz range to 528. Is that just After Effects, or is that the real deal? Also, is it possible to see a picture of Jeremy? I want to see what an aging bird looks like. I will take my question offline.
Come on.
And I'll
Fantastic.
see you in the belief hole.
Oh,
Thanks.
it's so great, man.
great. Oh.
It's so like dry too.
Oh, yeah.
Like
I don't look like an aging bird, thank you. But I can see why you'd be confused.
That's a harkening back to our first episode.
you look like the lesbian from Glee, the teacher.
Oh, yeah. What was her name?
Oh, she's a great actress.
Oh, was she
That's
an
her
aging
name.
bird? Is that where that came
No,
from?
it came from It's Always Sunny D. You guys were talking about in the first episode we did in
No,
Austin.
not aging bird. That was just you look like a bird, and then I put the aging
Aging
bird.
Right, but I'm saying that's where we rolled into it back.
Yeah,
Terry,
that's
don't
true.
encourage them. I don't think I look like a bird. Well, and I have-
Sometimes you do.
Chris
When
is-
the light strikes you right.
Sometimes you're my twin brother. How
Well,
do I know? What are you, if
You're
I'm
more gaunt.
okay, well then that doesn't make you a
Gaunt.
penguin. I'm a
You're just
ostrich and
more
you're a
like
penguin.
withered and gaunty.
Well, if you
Yeah.
listen to our,
You got
our
kind of a slope about you.
the episode on Patreon, for some reason I'm also described as a blue-footed booby for some
in our
reason.
Patreon episode, yeah, you're
Fluttering
very
about.
bird-like.
I
Apparently,
was having trouble really describing or connecting the dots with the Saturn Death Cult, and so I was flapping around like a blue-footed booby. I
And then
suppose.
falling down the
Anyways,
bleep
so
hole.
did we want to comment on his question about
Oh, yeah,
CERN? Or
CERN.
do you know anything about that? I'm not
Not
familiar.
specifically with the frequencies,
Not
but
the frequencies.
But the CERN, I do like. It's funny because that day that he sent that, which was yesterday, I had got a YouTube video from a close friend about CERN, and I thought instantly, like, man, I've been dying to do an episode on CERN and the occult connections, potential connections to CERN, and we haven't done it yet. And I was like, man, we got to do that. And then we get that speak pipe. It was just synchronistic. Like,
Yeah.
I would
On the
love
same night.
love to dive into that.
CERN was the place where that video was shot where they had that like
all those people in robes.
ritual in the middle of the grounds?
Which some say was a hoax.
But how do you get into CERN and do a ritual?
Well, that was the argument, was that the people that were doing the ritual were
like
students that had been invited.
Young scientists.
Because you have to be invited to get there. And one of the arguments for why it was
that seems very bizarre.
Well, one of the reasons why it was supposedly potentially faked, or you could argue that it was someone who felt bad about what was going on in the ritual, but whoever was filming it through the window, it appears as if that person is wearing the same robe who's filming it with their phone as the people out in the
that
field.
Still doesn't mean it's a hoax.
Right. It could be just someone who bailed from the ceremony.
Or just someone that shot it on purpose and was putting it out into the world like, this is what we're doing.
That's what I meant, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but maybe it wasn't a defector.
Right. Well, that's a whole episode we could do.
Yeah, and, there's definitely some bizarre things going on there.
And I don't know,
I'm not where it's built.
I'm not sure what he was referring to with the frequencies exactly, but it reminded me of there's a concept, like I tune pianos, and there's that you tune things to like A440, the resonance, and all tuning is at a certain frequency, and there's an argument that frequency is known and specifically known to not be conducive for like human energy.
Oh, right.
And but we tune everything to that specifically because it is disruptive.
A440?
I don't know if it's specifically A440, but there's a frequency. And then there's one that's like perfectly in tune with nature, with us, with everything. But at some point we switched it to this more disruptive. I don't know if he's referring to that specifically with the CERN thing or if that's something separate, but both of those are interesting topics to look into. So thank you, Terry.
We'll probably have to do some more research on that, but it's definitely an interesting topic for sure.
I mean, the occult connections with CERN, I mean, I could just go off stuff right now that I know, but I'd rather...
And they are trying to, it seems like, open a portal.
Well, that's admittedly, there's a quote from the director of CERN that I would read if I...
Is this where the Hadron Collider is?
Yeah, that's CERN.
Same place, yeah.
And CERN's been around, I mean, that's where the internet came from. It's been around since the dawn of the nuclear age. What, CERN?
No, the internet.
Oh, is that
Al
a thing?
Gore created
I thought he always claimed that he invented it.
Well, it came from CERN.
Oh, it did? Was he working at CERN? Did he come through a portal at CERN? Is that how he got Al Gore? I don't know. Anyway. Ding, ding.
Falling flat. There it is. But we'll have to dive into that because there's like, oh man, there are a lot of crazy connections with CERN.
Yeah,
for sure.
I like that we're getting some feedback from listeners though to look into certain things. Like him and Rachel both gave some good ideas. This last week,
because there are limitless topics to go into. So let's get back on the horse.
Sounds good.
The horsey with the Halloweeny episodes. We got the Ouija board. So let's
move. Is that your New Jersey accent?
I don't know what that was.
It's like an old angry New Jersey woman.
I was like thinking about it.
Let's get back to the episode here.
Let's get back to the episode. We're going to be talking about some Ouija boards. Okay, I'm done. Sorry.
You should have been a dramatic actor.
Yeah,
a dramatic actor. I'm a method actor.
Jeremy's right now wearing a dress.
I stayed with someone who did very bad impressions of New Jersey accents, and I stayed with them so that I could learn what it was really like
to do bad accents.
To give bad accents.
Yeah, that's just like a mind warp.
Yeah.
I went somewhere to learn really bad accents. Anyway.
Okay, so getting back into it, I wish I had a sound effect at my disposal to go.
I could do this.
Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
How about?
No,
that's kind of deflating sound. Yeah. You need like a focusing
lightning
sound.
Crackle. Ouija board sound.
I don't got anything of that.
We'll just drop that in.
Okay.
Drop it in here. Okay. So getting back to the Ouija board. So I wanted to play, and I know this won't translate super well right away for those of you listening on your earphones, but I wanted to play a clip and get your guys' reaction. Because you can YouTube Ouija board videos and people supposedly actually doing Ouija board tests, right? There's a guy named Mellow Bird. I think it's Mellow and then B1RD, but it'll be in the show notes. It'll be in our episode. Yeah, so this is Mellow Bird with his Ouija board.
For sure.
A little background, his house is supposedly haunted, and he has tons of videos of poltergeist activity. A lot of it's really compelling, and this is one of the most popular ones, and it deals specifically with doing the Ouija board on Halloween night. So let's roll tape.
Hi guys, happy Halloween. We're going to try this again. Didn't work out too well last time.
So he has a glass there?
I'm a bit like this. 1, 2, 3.
Whoa. That was freaky. It startled me.
I didn't sway.
Whoa.
So why don't you tell us what happened, John, in that video?
It's not over yet.
Oh, what happened again?
The power of Christ compels you.
Okay, I will stop it. I'm not exactly sure what's going on. He looks like he has a glass on a Ouija board, and then
ask the glass.
He goes down to touch it.
Touch the glass.
To touch the glass, and it just explodes, like, violently. And then a couple seconds later, something gets thrown at him from within the room.
Things start flying, and I think a drawer opens, and then he ends up leaving.
The violence of that exploding is definitely strange.
Hard to fake that, probably.
Maybe not, though.
Maybe. No, and he has another video of a glass exploding. Like that. He has a video of a cross catching fire. He's got a lot of crazy stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely compelling. I don't think that's not fakeable, though.
Oh, absolutely. It's absolutely fakeable. I mean, a lot of this stuff is. I mean, anything.
You can't really know, but it is cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely started me. And
well, it's interesting that when I saw that glass explosion, it looked like it was shattering from the middle outward. You know, it didn't to me look like something was thrown at the glass. So I wonder how you would blow it out.
Well, you could put a little like explosive or something.
What I would think honestly is that it would
you just don't see it in the
when I watched it a few times, and when I saw the other video where another glass exploded, I mean, it's definitely convincing. And I was thinking skeptically, like, you could have something where you had a board that was slightly rigid or something on there that as soon as you touch it with a glass that's designed to break, like an illusionist glass that's designed to shatter. And then if you start moving it or press it on the board, any kind of pressure could cause it to. Because he always uses the same kind of glass. Like another time it exploded, it was the same kind of glass.
Oh, interesting.
So I wonder.
Should Google
not to say that it's not
exploding
true.
glasses on Amazon and see if there are any with that design.
Right. But he does have a lot of compelling videos. I'd recommend people go check it out. It'll be on our website.
So they're fun. Page. They're good Halloween fodder regardless.
So that specific example where he's got the glass there on a Ouija board type thing, people make their own Ouija boards, and that's a specific version called Ask the Glass, where you can use a glass and just write out an alphabet.
Okay.
Like teenage kids will use this at parties. They can just write it out and make, like, if you're at your Halloween, you're all of a sudden everybody's like half in the bag, and they're like, "What do you guys want to do? It's kind of boring here." No one.
Say half in the bag.
Half in the bag, you know. That's a term.
It used to be.
It's a term. Anyway, you're like, well, what are we going to do this party? Let's we have a Ouija board? No. Well, let's make a Ouija board. Then they would do that. Just write it out. Put a glass down. You can use shot glasses.
Well, the tool doesn't really matter. I mean,
Right.
the fact that it's made by Parker Brothers generally, it doesn't matter that it's a piece of plastic.
It's the intention.
It's the intention and the willful opening to something.
Right. I was just saying that's what he was using there, that Ask the Glass kind of
He was using an actual
strategy.
board.
Oh, that's what the glass was for.
Yeah.
Well, that makes more sense. I didn't understand.
Yeah,
exactly
he was using it as a planchette, is my guess.
Yeah, I think.
What?
It seemed to me that he was just swapping out a planchette.
Planchette's
the little.
It
you might
means
wanna-
a small table.
Yeah, it's the little thing you put your fingers on to
French.
move around the
It's
board.
the guide.
A lot
word
of
guide.
You know, it's funny in my research, I didn't come across, and I'm sure there's a reason for this, but maybe because the spiritualist movement came from France, maybe? It's definitely European. But maybe France specifically because, we talked about seance being French for session.
Yeah.
Planchette is French for small board. So it seems like all these
Small
different...
table.
Or is it small table?
I think so.
Small table. So yeah, a lot of French terminology for
Interesting.
all of these things, you know?
Let's get back to the
When we're ectoplasm.
scary stories.
Go for it.
Go for it.
So, yeah, I'd recommend checking that out. I'm also going to say that there are, a litany of YouTube videos, and it's so hard to prove this stuff. There is one that I'm going to link in the show notes that we don't have to play now for the sake of time, but it is a group of Norwegian girls that are playing, and it's one of the more convincing videos I've seen. I don't know. They're not legal.
Oh,
I would guess. I don't know. But I wasn't thinking about that when I was looking at the video. Chris,
I'm alone.
you are sad. You're a sad man.
Go drink some taco sauce and have an out-of-body
No,
experience.
I've learned my lesson. I'm not astral traveling with taco sauce anymore.
Let's not paint you as pathetic as possible. Taco sauce in the RV.
I am a well-lived man.
Okay.
Everyone has their own path. Some of those.
Continue with your story. Let's go. Something scarier other than my taco sauce.
Okay, so anyways, but oh god, so off-putting. But I was gonna say, yeah. So that you probably don't want to play that right now, John. Do you? Because the whole video is a little long. It's
No,
like 3 minutes.
I've seen it too.
Essentially, what happens is this group of Norwegian girls are playing, and they're talking, and it's a very real seeming video because it's obviously taken from a cell phone. The image quality is not great, but you can obviously see at one point they're laughing and giggling, and one girl puts down her glass of what looks like maybe wine or something, and as soon as she sets it down, it slides across the table. which the startled reaction from them seems pretty authentic.
Yeah.
And then a little later, they start noticing the chandeliers start to move a little, and you notice them each individually kind of glancing up over time at it as it starts to move, and then eventually, like they point the camera at it and point it away, and kind of waiting for something to happen, and then it just like swings, and they all scream and run out of the room. And it's definitely one of the more compelling videos. So I would recommend.
And it's interesting that we talked earlier about how that young energy, like they're all
around that age,
probably, you know,
hormonally
changing young people.
Yeah, and that's, you mentioned a litany of YouTube videos. I think what to me is the most compelling videos anywhere online or wherever you find videos or people recounting their stories. It's the reaction from people.
Yeah,
I think if you can kind of judge when something is artificial. Some people can't, but I think there's an argument to be made by like watching reactions. Like, okay, that's obviously bogus, or that person seems genuinely spontaneously terrified, and they would have had to go to some acting class in London to respond.
Or
as
is
a
it
genuine
that,
or is it prank?
What?
I mean, I still think it can be fake, but it gives you a better clue.
Well, no, obviously.
I mean, some are.
But that's generally how I discern. Like, okay, this seems fishy. When someone seems like
well, obviously, if the reaction is not genuine, I still think people could fake that.
Well,
and you could still get away with it. But you're right. If it's bad, if the reaction is not convincing, that's
right.
Dead
I mean, just
giveaway.
some seem genuine, some don't seem genuine. That's all I was saying.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Was that a pun? Dead giveaway, John. Dead giveaway. So yeah, we'll have a couple of those videos and links to like some of the best, I think, Ouija videos on our website on this episodes page. So check it out. But now I want to talk about some creepy stories, some real accounts of things that happened a little deeper than what you did, Chris. Some of the historical stories you had. Oh, yeah. These are modern occurrences that have happened because of communication with the Ouija board, and whether or not it's actual demon possession or pressure from a spirit to act in a certain way that caused these things to happen, or a mental illness. Regardless, I think the point is the same. Like these shouldn't be taken lightly. The idea of the board or any kind of opening yourself up, even if it's just your deeper psyche in places that you're not ready to go, but you let yourself go there. There can be consequences, and I'd like to read a few of those consequences.
Be safe.
Do you have any spooky music, John? You wanna tell us?
I can find something.
I've got 3 quick stories here. And these are all news accounts from different sources that will be listed on our website. This is the murder of Ngak Van Dang. In 1938, 25-year-old Anthony Hall and his 16-year-old girlfriend Bunny Dixon were fascinated with Satanism and the occult. That summer, Dixon told Hall and their friends, Daniel and Elizabeth, about a plan that had been given to her by the spirit of a 10-year-old boy named David, who communicated with her through a Ouija board. The plan involved leaving their home in Florida and joining a carnival in Virginia. Don't trust carnies. In order to fund their trip, they would have to rob and murder a motorist. On July 20th, while the girls pretended to hitchhike, the guys hid out of sight from the road. When 25-year-old Ngak Van Dang picked up the girls, the men jumped out and robbed him at knife point. They then bound and gagged him and drove a short distance to an isolated area where Hall carved an inverted cross into Dang's chest. The young people then made him hop into a wooded area where they shot him 11 times in the head and chest. After the murder, they took off in Dang's car, but the 2 couples split up in North Carolina. Once they were on their own, 2 of them called the police and told them they had witnessed a murder. They also led the police to the crime scene. All 4 were arrested, tried, and convicted for the murder.
Dang.
Yeah, really dark.
Yeah,
and really sad.
Dark. Floridians, man.
But they believe that they had been contacted by the spirit of David through the Ouija board.
Well, what's weird to me is it seemed like David just wanted them to join a carnival. He didn't sound like he had told them to kill all those people.
What? No, David was the guy who got killed.
I thought he was the little boy.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. Ngak Van Dang.
Yeah.
Sorry, all these
like,
names, which I will not get right as I read these further.
Little boy on the Ouija board's like, go join a carnival. And they're like, okay. And then they go on their way, and then they just start murdering people to get there.
It didn't really specifically say which part of the plan was given to them.
This poor spirit David was like, I just wanted you to join a carnival.
Yeah. And they're like, well, cool. Well, we can murder a guy and get there. Yeah, that was a dark story, but true. Okay.
Gross.
It was gross and sad.
Sad.
Okay, next story. Spooky music. Same spooky music.
I didn't know we wanted
okay.
different.
No, that was good. That's good.
Okay.
Okay, these are short. On the night of February 11th, 2001, 50-year-old grandmother Carol Sue Elviker was using a Ouija board with her daughter Tammy Roach and Tammy's 2 daughters while playing in their home in Minco, Oklahoma. Elviker apparently received a message from God through the Ouija board informing her that her son-in-law, 34-year-old Brian Roach, was evil and needed to be killed. So Elviker grabbed a knife and stabbed the former mayor of Minco in his sleep. He called out for help, but Elviker and Tammy Roach did nothing, allowing him to bleed to death. After stabbing her son-in-law, Elviker tried to stab Tammy's 10-year-old daughter, but Tammy wrestled the knife from her mother and hid it in the house. Then Elviker Roach and her 2 daughters piled into a car with Elviker driving. That proved to be a bad idea, however, since Elviker soon tried to kill everyone in the car by running into a road sign. However, she only ended up breaking both of her ankles and slightly injuring the other passengers. Elviker then got out of the car and tried to push one of her granddaughters into traffic, apparently believing that she had inherited Brian's evil. After failing to kill her granddaughter, Elviker ran from the scene, even though both of her ankles were broken. She stripped off her clothes and hid in the forest, but was soon arrested by the authorities. Now, what's really strange about the case is that Elviker had no history of mental problems. Drugs and alcohol were not involved, and investigators couldn't find any evidence of domestic problems in the home. Elviker was ruled insane and committed to a psychiatric hospital. Tammy was also charged, but the case was later dropped.
So yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Did she have like a history of mental
Well, that's
illness?
what's bizarre when
all of a sudden you start killing your family members, pushing them into traffic, and then you get naked and run out into the forest. Like definitely, if not some sort of spirit-induced issue related to the Ouija board, definitely some sort of
something triggered
psychosis.
Right. Maybe there was something
opened in her mind, if not supernaturally, then psychotically.
Yeah.
From that experience. Bizarre.
Yeah. Okay. This is the last one I'm going to read. That's a real account.
So I want to tell you a story.
Oh, was that Jordan Peterson?
Yeah.
Well, it was oddly off-putting.
You weren't expecting.
Exactly. Sorry, Jordan. Okay, so this is the final story.
Should I play the music again?
Yes, let's get that creep music one more time. On December 2nd, 1995, Michael McCallum and his 16-year-old friend Pierre Antone lured 2 15-year-olds, Michael Eridge and Stephen Curran, back to McCallum's flat in London, England. The room, which was described as a shrine to Satan, had a Ouija board. While the 4 teenagers were using it, the board supposedly spelled out the word, kill. When Eridge tried to leave, Antone prevented him from doing so, eventually striking him. Things took a turn for the worse when McCallum pulled out a foot-long combat knife and used it to stab Eridge 11 times in the neck and chest while Curran watched on in horror. It is believed that McCallum murdered Eridge in an attempt to make a sacrifice to Satan. McCallum, who had unspecified mental problems, accepted a plea of manslaughter due to diminished responsibility and was sentenced to an unlimited term at Broadmoor Mental Hospital.
What is an unlimited term?
Maybe to be decided.
Oh, unlimited.
Unlimited. That has a
creepy story,
nasty ring of forever to it.
Yeah. So it's that thing. Is that an example of the board contacting some demonic spirit, or is it someone with psychosis who's,
believed he was sacrificing someone to Satan,
right?
And whatever you think about, Anton LaVey's Church of Satanism or Church of Satan versus like people practicing a different kind of Satanism and hidden shadows, sacrificing children.
Just more New Age or actually dark.
I mean, there's different ideas to this, but like this person obviously believed that he was practicing a form of Satanism and wanted to sacrifice, and it was led by this Ouija board, the motivation to do it. Yeah, creepy stuff. So there's a lot of creepy, gross,
nice,
freaky
fun
stuff
family
out there.
Stories.
Yeah.
Gross.
Now, yes.
You guys know who that is?
I don't.
It's my passed on friend.
That's
Chad? I thought it might have been Chad.
Oh, wow. That's heavy.
Yeah. Well, he gets to somehow channel with us right now and be a part of the show. So
yeah.
Well, I feel like that's how he would do it too.
Yeah.
Gross.
He would too. Yeah.
Crazy sense of humor.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Miss him.
Yeah. Wow, this episode's a weird mix of like emotional situations. Humor, like it's like we're joking about a story, and then the story involves like the actual murder of somebody, and then just like this up and down of like dark. I mean, because it's weird because like the whole like occult Ouija board stuff, it's a game in a lot of ways. Like it has this kind of fun spirit to it, but at the same time, like
that's how they lure you in.
Yeah, there is like that sense of dark mystery that brings people into it. So.
Yeah.
All right, so I have one more clip that comes with my segment of the Ouija stuff.
Oh my God. Okay. What are you talking about?
So I
Use your words.
Speak your words.
I have that other clip.
Come to the talkie box.
I have that other clip of an supposed actual possession.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
That if you want to play, I'll give a quick background to it. Okay, so this happened on June 22nd of 2016, the Mexican village of San Juan Tlacatenco. It was a Mexican girl by the name of Alexandra. She was 16, and her and her brother and her cousin were reportedly using a Ouija board to contact her deceased parents. So I guess she was an orphan.
Sad.
Yeah, that's actually pretty sad. So minutes into the game, the trio apparently fell into a trance-like state. Alexandra began growling while her relatives were suffering hallucinations. The players were taken to a hospital where they were treated with painkillers for some reason. I guess that calmed them down. Her guardians had admitted that they had told the trio how to contact dead parents using a drug and the Ouija board. And the drug was a hallucinogenic drug. I thought I had the name of it here. But it was referred to as Angel's Trumpet.
This is where, in Mexico?
Yeah, this is in Mexico. It's a drug used.
Is this like a cell phone clip or something?
It's a shamanic drug. Yeah, okay, so the story behind this clip it's actually kind of sad. I feel a little bad playing it because the parents are suing or they said they want to sue the
guardians,
the guardians, parental guardians want to sue the ambulance driver or ambulance worker who filmed this on his cell phone of the possession.
Oh, and then put it online.
And then he put it online, yeah. And so they wanted to sue him. So I feel a little bad playing it.
You're not sharing,
but this is from the Daily.
Or any images, so I don't.
This is from the Daily News, I think.
Yes. Are you repeating the report?
I'm repeating it, as David Icke would say. I'm a repeater. But anyways, it's out there, and I think it's compelling information, and it also shows like the dangers of going into this stuff, especially when you're young. I mean, she was 16 years old, so I guess she was taking a shamanic drug. I thought I had the name of it here, but I guess that doesn't really matter at this point. But the follow-up investigation, they interviewed the guardians, and they said that they believe she was still possessed by demons.
After the experience?
Right, and they were worried that they were still in her, and they weren't letting her speak at the time. And I don't know if that's because they were worried that she was still possessed, or if it was because she just needed rest. But in any case, this is a quick audio clip.
Judge for yourself.
Alejandra, ¿no te has cansado? ¿De qué te ríes? ¿Y por qué te vas a morir? ¿Que ya no te quieres o qué?
Yeah. So you can hear them telling her to calm down. In the video, she's like
Where's
restrained.
the laughing coming from?
That's her.
Really?
Yeah, she's growling and then going to like maniacal laughter. Her
that's
eyes
weird.
are kind of rolled to the side of her head.
It's one of those things
And
that you
she-
hear and it just feels like it's trying to come into you. You know,
Yeah.
that sound.
Sorry for people at home if you are feeling.
Should have
demon
warned
in your
your
soul.
children to cover your ears.
Well, I'm sure they're not listening. I hope they're not listening to our podcast.
Probably not.
But
It's
yeah,
not a family show.
no, not at this point. But it's creepy because like there's a darkness, and even if you're doing these kinds of things, and if you're connecting with something deeper in yourself or some kind of projected psyche or subconscious or whatever it is, like it can be dangerous and scary. And it reminds me of like when we were young, which is the next thing I kind of want to talk about, like the games we used to play.
Yeah.
Like not just like, I mean, there's the Ouija board that we would get our hands on, but there's games that are popular now, like the Charlie challenge, where you cross two pencils and you ask it yes or no questions, and the pencil supposedly moves to yes or no. And there's some videos online, YouTube, that are pretty creepy, and some are obvious fakes, but it just reminds me of that feeling when you're a kid. And I remember when we were on the bus, we used to play this game called Red Door, White Door. Do you remember that, John?
Nope.
You ever played that?
So on the school bus, it was kind of this rite of passage. You'd lay your head in another person's lap and you'd say, red door, white door, walking down the hall. Red door, white door, see them all. And meanwhile, the person laying down would have their eyes closed and they'd be envisioning what you're saying, these doors. And the idea was you would, in your mind, then go walk down the hall and you'd explain what you were seeing when you opened each door. And so it's kind of this psychological exploration, essentially, to your inner demons or to whatever you might see, whether it's outside yourself or inside yourself you can't reach. Kids are doing this now. I Googled it because I wanted to see if like kids are still playing these kinds of games. And the one that's played now, it's called Red Door, Yellow Door, and it's the same idea.
There are rules too, right?
There are rules, and it's really interesting and kind of creepy. Red Door, Yellow Door. There's two games I want to talk about because they're both creepy. This one's not as creepy as the next one. But this one, the same idea. You sit down, you have your friend lay in your lap with their eyes closed, their arms raised, while you rub their temples, and you and whoever else is in the room chants, red door, yellow door, any other color door. Red door, yellow door, any other color door. And then once the person laying down begins to see what they're chanting, they lower their arms and they're ready to play, essentially. So then it says, when you feel yourself getting into a trance-like state, if you can see the room or doors in front of you, you lower your arms. This means the chanting can be stopped and the game now begins. The guide asks you questions, getting you to describe your surroundings and prompting you to open doors. Whenever the guide asks you a question, you must answer it. So as the person's going, they go through these rooms and they describe what they're seeing. And some of the rooms have rules. Some of the things you encounter have rules. If you go into a room with clocks, for instance, you can get stuck, so you have to leave immediately. So the guide is supposed to tell you, leave immediately if you see a clock. You have to stay away from people that are typically wearing dark or men in suits because they're often tricksters or they can trap you. You always have to close the doors behind you, which is just a creepy rule. It makes me think that like once you pass through a room in your psyche, if you don't close that door.
It's like the goodbye on the Ouija board.
Yeah, you
gotta
could
make sure you use goodbye.
Yeah, or otherwise you could let those demons out and maybe they could attack you in that place, you know. I mean, the one final rule that people talk about is if you die in that trance, you can die in real life. And if you get stuck, it's up to your guide to shake you awake. And it's just weird because I remember playing this. Mm-hmm. And people have some really creepy experiences. Like, and I think a lot of them realize that they're tapping into something inside themselves, but you're still going into rooms and seeing things that you don't expect to see. Like you're actually, it's not like you're imagining it as it's happening. You're not aware that like, okay, I'm going to create this person in this room. It's you literally walk into it and something just appears. So it's the idea that like your subconscious is manifesting these demons or these figures. And I kind of want to play it. I could really kind of want to play it again because I remember playing it as a kid. It was one of my most memorable experiences that I can go back to as a kid.
Yeah, I remember that too, very vividly.
But anyway, that's just an interesting game that's played
It's
now.
interesting that people are still playing, like it just gets passed down generation to generation, bus ride to bus ride.
Must have been something there.
Yeah, I think these traditions stick for a reason.
Yeah.
Okay, the other game is definitely more supernatural, and it is really creepy. It's called The Three Kings. And this is something like, when I read it, you'll probably feel the same way, but you'll want to do it, but then you'll really not.
Is it like Bloody Mary?
Yes. Except, I mean, and the creepiest thing is it doesn't tell you what's going to happen from doing it, but it leaves enough like space for you to imagine, and it's the unknown. That's what's so freaky about it. So The Three Kings is a scary ghost game that supposedly enables the person who performs the ritual to access another dimension. The Three Kings ritual could very well be dangerous, but we'll skip this. To play the Three Kings game, you need a quiet and empty room, preferably without windows. You also need 3 chairs, 2 large mirrors, a candle, a lighter, an electric fan, and an alarm clock. So it sounds a little involved, but there's a reason for that. Place a chair in the center of the room facing north. This is your throne. Place the other 2 chairs exactly to the left and right facing your throne. These 2 chairs are known as the Queen and the Fool. Place the 2 large mirrors on the Queen and the Fool's chairs. The mirrors should be facing each other. If you sit on the throne, facing straight ahead, you should be able to barely see your own reflection in both of the mirrors. If you see your own reflection in the corner of your eye, just barely there, then you've done it right. This is just the setup. Place the electric fan behind you facing the throne. Turn it on. Leave it on. Turn off the lights, leave the door open, and go to your bedroom. Put the candles, lighter, alarm clock, and cell phone beside your bed. Set the alarm clock for exactly 3:30 a.m. Turn off the lights and go to sleep while holding your childhood toy. By the way, listeners at home, I don't recommend actually following these instructions and doing this. When the alarm clock goes off at 3:30 a.m., turn it off. Get out of bed, but don't turn on the lights. You have exactly 3 minutes to light your candle and make your way to the dark room to sit on your throne. You should be seated by 3:33 a.m. If the alarm clock did not go off at exactly 3:30 a.m., abort the mission. If the door of the dark room is closed, remember you left it open. Abort the mission. The fan is off. Remember, you left it on. Abort the mission. If you are not seated on your throne by exactly 3:33 a.m., abort the mission. If you have to abort the mission, leave the house immediately. After 4:44 a.m., it's safe to return. If all is going as planned, you can proceed with the ritual. Sit down on your throne, look straight ahead, and stare into the darkness. Do not look at the mirrors. I won't spoil what happens next. All you need to know is that you won't be alone. If you have questions, you will get answers. Sometimes those answers will come in the form of new questions. Whatever you do, make sure you do not look directly at the mirrors by your side or the candle. Just stare straight ahead. Don't chicken out either. You need to stay seated until 4:44 a.m. That's a whole hour. Just stay still and try not to move. It's okay to tremble a little bit. You need to stay seated for at least 1 hour and 11 minutes. This is kind of interesting here. I didn't specify which chair was the queen and which chair was the fool. That's because it's your job to find out. Also, from their point of view, you are either their queen or their fool too, hence the name Three Kings. Do not let the candle go out or the ritual will end. This is a backup measure to protect you. Remember, the fan is behind you. Your body is between the fan and the candle. If your body was suddenly moved or dragged out of the chair, by a demon, maybe, the fan will immediately blow out the candle. That backup measure may save your life. To end the ritual, you can blow out the candle at 4:44 a.m. If the candle goes out before 4:44 a.m., you're on your own. And I love the last bit here. Be safe. Don't play this game.
Yeah,
pretty
seriously.
creepy, man.
Well, it sounds like a ritual. It sounds like you're summoning evil spirits.
Yeah,
but it also
mirrors in your peripheral vision where the shadow people live.
To me, it definitely sounds like a creepypasta type kind of thing.
Like for sure.
But all of these things are. I mean, all these games.
It's very detailed.
Yeah. It's also like, it's interesting in a whole other realm, like real or not, like it's interesting to see this, in pop culture, these things pop up on it because of the internet.
Yeah.
You know, like if this was some organic thing that happened throughout the centuries, I feel like it would be something that everybody would know, like Bloody Mary.
Well, first of all, it wouldn't be an alarm clock would be involved.
Right, exactly.
And I want to give credit to,
but it's real.
I don't recommend people necessarily going here, and it's just weird because the website is called scaryforkids.com.
Wake up at 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Like,
don't tell your parents.
It definitely sounds like
this whole website gives me a weird feeling a little bit because, like, yeah, I would love to have this when I was a kid because these games would be creepy as heck.
Yeah.
But also, like, I'd want to do them or try them or like make my friends do them. But it's weird just going through because an adult put this together and there's a lot of creepy games in here, including Bloody Mary and those kind of games.
This is way more involved than Bloody Mary, but it still seems like, I mean, it has the same level of creepiness. It's just way more involved, which makes it even creepier.
Yeah.
Like,
the time
you're
effort.
You're ritualizing something. You're summoning something. It seems like, and regardless,
that's the whole point. Yeah,
if
the other kings.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what's interesting about it. If there were a supernatural bent to it, even if it was like a modern creation, I could totally see it working in the way that like because you're
putting so much emphasis on
your intention is to bring something forth. So just because it's a new mold,
it's creepy. Yeah, it's definitely creepy.
Let's do it.
No, thank you.
I know, like you have that hunger, this weird, like I have this weird, like dark curiosity I can feel pulling at me. Like, God, what is
I
in
have
those
no
mirrors?
desire to do that at all.
It's not a desire. It's like a curiosity but I am too a little too cautious about like what can actually come into you. When you're a kid, you don't really think about like, oh, I could actually experience some dark things in my life if I let something in. You don't think about that,
right? Yeah.
Even if it's like just opening your own psyche.
Well, it's just like you don't think about death being an actual, really, like you don't really think about it. You know it's out there, but you don't really know it when you're a kid.
It won't happen to me.
Yeah. So this Halloween,
I'm young.
Don't play these games. But if you do, go to believeful.com and leave us a speak pipe
That's what happened.
What the name is of the demon that inhabited you.
Someone out there that's super brave and wants to try that.
And is above 18.
I pray for you. But it would be interesting to hear the results.
Yes, and if you do go in there with protect.
John, did you ever do like the Bloody Mary game at camp or anything?
At camp?
Yeah, I remember doing it like Camp Moana one time, like Bloody Mary. Did you ever do any of those games growing up?
I don't know if I ever did the Bloody Mary one. It seemed pretty like summony too. Like I kind of knew that was
summony.
It felt dark to me in a way that didn't feel safe.
Yeah. Well, that's the fun. That's the weird, ironic thing about these games. They're you do it. I guess it's like a test of bravery.
Like an
but really,
and
it's a general rush. But the interesting thing is like
general rush.
It's a gentleman rush.
It's a gentleman's rush.
It's a gentleman's rush.
Gentleman'srush.com.
Gentleman's rush.
Gentleman's rush.
That's something what they used to call heroin or cocaine or something.
Like the most polite porn site, gentleman'srush.com.
It's like just panties and lingerie.
Gentleman'sthrust.com.
Gentleman's thrust. I'll give you a gentleman's thrust. Well, what was I saying? There was a reason. I totally lost
Time's
it.
up.
Okay.
Time's up.
Ding ding.
So
there we go.
So that's my
a little
segment.
late.
That's pretty much wraps up the Ouija segment. The only other thing that we had before jumping to the last segment, if we wanted to, was we had a really good story that related to our last episode that someone wrote in.
Okay.
that I would like to read real
Yeah,
quick.
go for it.
We had the episode on shadow people. If you haven't listened to it, go back and check it out. We had a really good interview on there.
Stop everything right now.
And go. Pause this episode and go back. You cheaters. Okay, so this is from Laura. Sorry. This is from Laura on Facebook. On August 19th, she sent this to us. I was listening to your podcast about shadow people. Fascinating topic. There was something one of you mentioned about the experience. It was the waking up terrified, like there's something scary hanging around. The time it has happened, I'm able to move, but refuse to do so because it feels like if I move, whatever it is, it will know I'm aware of it, and I guess, in my mind, attack me. During those few times, I don't remember having a nightmare. In my case, I have never seen a shadow person the times I have woken up like that, and it makes me wonder if it's actually a shadow person. The reason that I'm unable to tell if there's a shadow person involved is because I'm myopic and astigmatic. Like from 20/20 vision, I have 12/13. When I don't wear glasses, everything is extremely blurry. So waking up in the middle of the night, I can't see details very well. And it's fucking terrifying. That last part I added.
That would be terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, just the idea of like waking up in that
that's
state
the
of terror
scary
and then
part,
not being
yeah.
able to make anything out, not just because it's dark, but because
Right.
you have a condition with your sight.
Yeah, like you can't really know.
And you can't remedy that unless like what you get to your glasses and turn on the lights. You just
Right,
have to
so you
lay
can't
there
even,
and-
like-
It's the beginning of a scary story.
Yeah.
Not being able to see.
There's a good movie like that came out last year. I think it's called
Hush.
Hush, about like a killer that comes to a blind woman's house. Or was she deaf?
Oh, I saw that.
She's deaf.
Yeah, she's
She's
deaf.
That was a good movie.
It was good. But thank you, Laura, for that. That was a really
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That must be pretty
It's a creepy
terrifying.
situation.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a little break here because we've got some activity.
We have
Some
some
of us that is not
paranormal or
paranormal.
otherwise.
It is the hair salon above us. It is pounding around.
All right, we'll take a quick break, guys, and we'll see
We'll
you
come
in a-
back. We'll come back with the news.
yes.
Yeah.
A little bit of news, and
A little bit of news,
a little bit of a brighter, sunny topic.
and then it's
Not
not
sunny.
It's just
Mysterious.
It's not as
A different
intense.
slant.
Yes.
All right,
Less board murder.
we'll be back.
It's a Ouija board.
Ouija, a mystifying oracle, was modern method of fortune telling. It is not even a term.
Look, it's just a board. It doesn't matter whether it's a Ouija board or some other instrument. You're consciously inviting an entity to you. You know not what you do. My advice is, don't do it.
I want to tell you that Ouija board, if you mess with that, it happened to me when I was 9 years old. It's an entrance for a satanic spirit to enter your body.
A kindergarten teacher is removed from her class today for using a Ouija board in front of her students last week. The child told his mother his teacher turned off the lights, pulled out a Ouija board, and started talking about scary stories and spirits.
I'm telling you, leave it alone.
You're sitting down to consciously invite an entity to direct you. It is not a good idea.
It can cause the worst type of nightmares and the worst type of life that you could ever have.
You be damn sure you think hard about it before you invite something in you don't want to keep you company.
Now, here's how it works. Somebody asks a question. We all concentrate on it, and the Ouija will answer. Come on, everybody put up your mouth.
And we're back.
We're back.
Welcome.
It was like the
In the news.
the most like
That was beautiful.
generic CNN.
I love it. That's fantastic.
It's
You
good.
do it again.
Of course I can do it as many times as you want.
I don't want it.
Oh, yeah, we're now.
We are valid news.
Welcome to Gleeful News.
Bert Schlanger.
News you can question.
Anyways, so I don't know why I felt like doing this topic. It just seemed really interesting to me and sort of kind of poignant where we're at as a society. I'm sure you guys have heard about the fire that happened in Brazil that took out their most treasured anthropological museum that housed a plethora. I think it was like over 20 million artifacts.
Wow,
dating back 11,000 years.
Wow,
Gone.
Tragedy.
It's like our oldest recorded history, right? Like as far as we can really go back.
Well, it housed the oldest skull ever found in the Americas.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm just going to read a couple of headlines here and just a brief kind of synopsis of what happened. So, millions of artifacts lost as flames engulfed the National Museum of Brazil from the Evening Standard. Tensions flare after fire destroys Brazil Museum in tragedy foretold from Reuters. So, the 200-year-old National Museum of Brazil was left gutted after a devastating blaze tore through the beloved institution late Sunday night. Though the extent of the damage remains unknown, aerial images show widespread damage throughout the building, which was home to an estimated 20 million artifacts spanning 11,000 years. On Monday, President Michel Temer called the loss insurmountable. However, one of his opponents in the upcoming presidential election, Marina Silva, was less conciliatory, describing the fire as equivalent to a lobotomy of the Brazilian memory.
Wow.
Which I think was kind of a profound statement.
That's pretty poignant.
I have no words to say how horrible this is, says Brazilian anthropologist Mariana Francosa. The indigenous collections are a tremendous loss. We can no longer study them. We can no longer understand what our ancestors did. It's heartbreaking. So
that's a nightmare to understanding your own history.
Yeah, it seems really strange. What's I have to bring in the conspiracy element to this.
Well,
right
that's
now.
why you're talking about it in the first place.
I mean, we're going to bring
imagine.
up. Ooh. Okay. That's a little.
Chris got really upset. And
Chris got very upset.
Knocked his beverage over.
History gets destroyed.
Thanks for ruining my segment.
Go on.
What are you doing? So, I'm very curious to. They didn't mention how much this was actually worth in dollars, but I would imagine it's in the billions.
Well, I'm sure it's
priceless.
Priceless.
Well, it's priceless, but I find it strange that obviously the Brazilian government has problems. Like it seems like there's a lot of corruption that goes on in these places, bad decisions with funding, which I think this is going to be blamed on some sort of electrical. They don't know how it happened, but it did happen in the middle of the night when no one was there, and when the fire department showed up, they said that the fire hydrants didn't work.
They're low pressure.
Low pressure.
They'd use a local pond or something.
Yeah, they had to go drive somewhere else and cart in the water. But, making the connection as far as just the amount of history and being in South America, just the amount of living species that were being studied is insane. Like it's the history of life there. I mean, so
yeah, not just that. They had a lot of ancient Egyptian artifacts, and they had so many. They had not just native indigenous mummies that were there, but they also had Egyptian mummies that were there. There was a lot of artifacts from Egypt too. So it's a kind of a combination of global.
Yeah, well, and anywhere you see these kinds of like the archaeological finds, like that have tie-ins across, across the globe, to use that dirty word, globe. Internationally, you have these finds that are like, where they have these cross-cultural connections when cultures shouldn't have been able to communicate with each other, and you go back to the Atlantean idea or some sort of great civilization in prehistory. And I mean, it just reminds me of the story of Alexandria, Library of Alexandria, when that was burned. And there's different ideas of who actually was behind the burning of that. But that contained all human knowledge at that time.
It just,
what was lost then? What ancient, lineages
are now prehistory civilization records
with
and
all the things that are
magic
going on in the Middle East with erasing the history over there, just these ancient pieces of architecture and sculptures and things like that have been destroyed with the wars and stuff going on.
Temples, statues.
Just a lot of very old things. And I just feel like there's this sort of theme in culture right now where we're trying to get rid of history, even in the United States.
Yeah, erase history before we can understand it.
Yeah, well, even before we understand it, or it's just sort of cutting off the link to our past. And as technology grows and we have more opportunities to understand the past, it seems... obviously this is all speculation, right? And there's no real ties, but with the next segment that I have coming up, there's a channel that talks about sort of like the time that we're in, and one of the reasons that she's communicating with these beings is that humanity is sort of under an assault right now. And she talks a lot about the Earth being this living library where it's like a jewel.
I've heard that before.
The universe. It's just teeming with life.
Right.
And these other beings that have come here are exploiting it, and they have no intention of keeping this place, alive and teeming with life. It's more just exploiting it and erasing our history. And so I just thought it was an interesting tie-in. A sad turn for Brazil. I feel bad for the people over
definitely.
there and for us.
Well, did you see they just had a bunch of protests because of this?
They're very upset with their government, obviously.
And that's
mismanaging of resources.
Right. One of the arguments was that there was this, completely corrupt thing where they had funneled it was supposed to be like 70% of the funds that were supposed to go to the anthropology museum that were just siphoned out to do other things. They were super upset because they just had the Olympics and spent so much money building these facilities to house this once in a generation thing where it was going to be in Brazil, but wasted all this money on that and didn't put any of it where it's supposed to be.
Unless it was on purpose.
Right. Well, then that's interesting because I was looking into that when you were talking about it, and I read that, and it was a CNN article, and it was just mentioned as like a side note, but I was like, what a nice, convenient thing for a conspiracy if you were going to think about it as a conspiracy, because the sprinkler system that was pretty much defunct and didn't do anything, it was going to be overhauled in October of this year. So if you were going to burn down, I just read that if you were going to, if you were going to burn down that place and have the scapegoat being the fire system and that was
it had to happen before.
You better do it before October. It's just an interesting.
We decided to pull it.
Right.
Decided to pull it. It was too much loss of life.
Very strange. Yeah. Like there's no way to prove any of this, and it's just all
it could easily be the corruption and the mismanagement of funds.
Did Larry Silverstein own that building?
Is that the guy who owned the 9/11 building?
Yeah. Anyways, I thought that was an interesting news report. And also,
it does tie in nicely to the channeling thing you're going to get into.
Yes, it does. So I might as well jump into that. So I'm going to be talking today about a lady named Barbara Marciniak. And it's deviating slightly from what we've been talking about as far as contacting spirits through Ouija boards. She is a channeler, and she claims to be a channel for a collective of multidimensional beings called the Pleiadians.
Oh, yes.
Also known as Nordic aliens or the Pleiadian. Pleiadians are humanoid aliens that come from the stellar systems surrounding the Pleiades stars. So this is channeling actually not spirits. It's sort of spirits in a way because it's multidimensional beings they claim to be not just physical, but also be able to...
Right, but their home base is in the Pleiadian star system, right?
The Pleiades,
yeah.
Yes.
And that has a lot of history in ufology with that one dude.
I like that they're Nordic aliens, too. That's
Our
a
ancestry.
Nice tie-in for us.
Yeah.
And so I think, I can totally understand why most people would think channeling is complete nonsense.
Like New Age woo-woo, crystals, yada, yada.
The only reason that I really even started looking into it was because I did have a UFO experience that I'm not going to go into it in detail right now.
Oh, you're not?
Well, we should save that for...
I'll save that for its own specific thing.
We keep bringing that up on shows, and then we keep saying we're going to save that. I get why we're going to save it. I know. I just get excited when I hear it about that.
And it's a cliffhanger, too. But so I went through that experience, and it really, really changed me as a person. Like, it shook the foundations of what I thought was possible on Earth, and I was just looking for answers. I was searching everywhere to try to figure out, some answers to what I had seen, and I did run across some channelers that they just seemed to have some really useful information for me at the time, and I felt like I was sort of being directed to this information. So that's how it started for me. That's how I started looking into these people, and it could be total nonsense, but I do think the information is pretty compelling, and it's a fun story.
Yeah, for sure.
So all I did basically was just gather some clips, and I wanted to just play them, and then we can hear her talk, and you can get a feel of what she sounds like, and then we can hopefully maybe have some discussion about it.
Sounds groovy. Barbara Marciniak, though, the name, it does sound like someone who was a mom of one of my fellow soccer players. It's like a soccer mom name. Barbara Marciniak,
Sounds like
it's Barbara Marciniak's turn to bring the casserole dish for the soccer game.
Sounds like a gubernatorial candidate. Barbara Marciniak running for governor.
It's a great name.
Well, she didn't choose her name, so don't.
No,
hold
it's
it
good. No,
against her.
I think it gives her more validity. Their name isn't like Melina Lightfeather
or
Bashar.
Melina Star System.
Star System.
What was that?
Bashar.
Something small storm.
Small storm.
Small
Well,
storm.
she's an author.
I know.
Completely unrelated.
But anyways, okay, so let's jump into this. This is the first
All right,
clip.
Barb, what do you got to say?
She talks kind of about why the Pleiadians are even in contact with humans right now, and it just kind of gives a brief intro as to, her and some of her ideas.
Let's hear what she has to say.
Good evening. Good evening. We are here, and once again, it is our great pleasure to be in your reality. So, you have figured out by now we are the Pleiadians as we speak through this, our vehicle. Many of you know that we have talked about the reason we have come to Earth. And one of those reasons involves a tyranny that grew out of the nanosecond in another line of time. And we told this story back in 1988 and 99, 89, in those early years. And we said we've come from the future, and we've come back in time because from this 25 years of accelerated energy, a tyranny grew, and it eventually reached us in the Pleiades. And the tyranny was based on humans abdicating their humanity and becoming basically cyborgs.
So that's the first clip. Yeah, I think it's...
My first impression is it's hard, I think, when you hear a human saying it. My initial response is like, it sounds like science fiction, but that's just, I think, because it's coming from someone who's never heard any of this before, and then she's talking about like
a tyranny spawning from a nanosecond.
It's very sci-fi, but often we talk about how sci-fi is based off reality.
Right, I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying that's my initial response is
well, that's how the channelings go. I mean, that's kind of obviously, the Ouija board stuff's fine, but this stuff is way too far out.
It's weird too because you're listening to it, and they're trying to impart like a knowledge, whereas like Ouija board. Like, it's the same kind of idea, right? Like, where it's like either it's selling a scary story
or let's get beyond just the... And let's talk about the content.
Yeah, well, what I was going to say was, I'm listening to it, and I listen, like, I'm thinking, okay, this is like a higher being, right? And so, like, my skeptical brain goes, where is she going to, like, stutter or trip up? You know what I mean? But, like, in reality, like they say, it's through is it at all interpreted? Like, is there a part of the actual, because I think there was like Abraham Hicks or something that, where like when it's coming through, there's a slight interpretation from like the vehicle.
Yeah, definitely filtered through people's own experiences and language.
Right.
And they're not perfect beings, which I think, you're expecting it to be like a godlike creature where it makes a mistake. It's always exactly right, which is not true. It's like, and they don't even claim, I don't think, they are advanced according to them. They're further along the lines of evolution, but
probably spiritual.
I love the visual of just imagining like a Pleiadian who's like phoning it in through this channeler, and he's just eating pizza in his underwear, like giving this presentation, like a video call,
Well, I just think that what she's initially talking about, how they trace back the problems in their own society back to this point in time, where there is this abdication of humanity being given to technology, which definitely seems very where we're headed in a lot of ways with the transhumanist stuff and just the feeling that I get myself when I'm dealing with technology. There's a certain sucking of the soul that happens. And you definitely have to get over that initial sort of like just the channeling. Hearing someone channel is bizarre if you've never heard it before. Right. To me, it doesn't sound weird because I've heard it so many times, but just for the people that have never been exposed to any of this stuff, it's going to sound a little woo-woo, obviously. So,
well, you go into everything open-minded. At least that's what we try to do on the Belief Hole. Open mind entrance into the topic.
Yeah, you jump in with a parachute and you don't pull your cord until you absolutely need to.
I just don't understand why this would be even such a hard leap to make with all the other things that we think about. I mean, it's basically just using a connection, like a human, as a way to transfer information.
Well, it's certainly possible. I'm just saying, like, I'm not saying it's not possible or this person's lying. I'm just saying.
But the way that you made it sound, it's like it's really hard to suspend belief because you actually hear a voice.
Yeah. Well, you hear someone, like nowhere can you hear someone imparting direct knowledge from another species or higher dimensional being except through channelers. So it's like the one thing that when you hear it, you're like, there's more pressure on it. It's like this.
What about through like writing and stuff?
Well, yeah,
like that
right.
too?
I think it's the same thing.
Yeah, it's the same kind of thing.
Because of course there have been like in the past, obviously there's been hucksters and fakes, and like obviously you wouldn't think that every channeler or whatever is real.
No, for sure. And this, like I said, this is just, it's. I think it's fun and it's entertainment.
And it's interesting. There's obviously good information. Like,
yeah, that's the thing is I've listened to hours and hours of her talk, and the information is very like personally transformative. And if you can get past, if you can let yourself sort of go for the ride a little bit, like regardless of
entertain the idea at least.
It's just get past, the good evening, sort of stuff, and just take the information for what it is and see if it resonates with you at all.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So
let's this is the next clip is her talking about being careful when you're doing this stuff and some of the beings I think you can run into.
The more grounded you are, the greater will be your vibration of understanding yourself as energy. When you are not grounded, you cannot really understand yourself as energy. And you start bringing in beings from what we call the lower astral realms. These beings, again, some of them are lost souls, some of them are mischief makers, some of them claim to be aliens and all kinds of things. So if you are dealing with this, or you are knowing anyone dealing with this kind of thing, you want to be strong and solid so that when you are dialing up into the other realms, you are here and you are really calling on a telephone. You are not, let's say, letting them take you over.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've heard that before, the lower astral plane energies. I heard a story about, it was a channeler, and she brought this guy in and they were doing like past life regression, and he got completely consumed in it. And she told him that there was this person that came through that was like his lover from a past life, and he like ended up leaving his wife in search for records on this person, and then ended up going to another channeler who was like, you need to watch out, that person is channeling people from it's a trickster spirit,
Oh yeah.
And then he found out later that supposedly the next channeler was like a trickster spirit. It's like, how do you know who are the trickster channelers?
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing is, I think she's talking about that, is you need to be grounded to know who you are as a person and be centered in yourself in order to properly do this kind of work.
Right.
You can't just, have been watching Hey Dude for 3 hours before you,
right.
You know what I mean? Like, you really have to take the time to be alone and ground yourself in a way that when you do this kind of thing, it's not like you're just this pushover. It's like, your center.
Yeah, and also, I would imagine like pay attention to warning signs in your life. Like if you're listening to certain channeling or whatever, and it's not doing positive things for you, but it's distracting you from good relationships in your life, then there might be an indicator that that's a trickster sort of entity that's giving you channeled information.
Yeah, for sure. That's all comes back to the grounded part.
Yeah.
If you're grounded, and you won't fall for stuff like that. You'll know the difference between truth and someone that's trying to use you for something.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Beware of those tricksters getting you to watch Hey Dude for 3 hours. Who watches Hey Dude for 3 hours? Worth it. Good show.
On a mushroom trip.
But yeah, good advice.
The next one is, I think it's a short one. It's about God or the Creator.
Our vicar was explaining to you about the Creator. Who is the Creator? The Creator, it's unknown. We don't know who the maker of the Creator is. No one does, but everyone knows of it. It's not a man, it's not a woman, it's not a location in another galaxy. It's not found in a black hole, it's not found anywhere, yet it is everywhere. It is a presence of intelligence that is in everything.
Yeah, well,
nothing super out of the ordinary that you expect.
Right.
A very new agey answer.
Should have been like, that's Zorondolu on planet Yashaganine.
I like, though, that she says that no one knows, and that's just that even though that they're really highly advanced species, that it's still unknown. It's sort of this mystery of the universe that.
Yeah, because that seems the most realistic to me. That just because you're an advanced, some sort of species.
Oh yeah,
or
his
entity.
name's Bob. He lives down the street.
Yeah,
he created everything.
That also is dangerous. I feel like if you were, not that she is, but if you were like, I feel like there's so many people that like, whether they're supposed prophets or they're, they can predict things as soon as they, like psychics, if they say it's going to happen on a certain date and it doesn't, then they're blown.
Right.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Like, That's such a huge question to answer.
Coming in 2012.
But I think that's an honest answer, no
It's
matter
as
who you
honest
are.
as you can get. I mean, as far as, she didn't,
It's also a smart answer, too.
I would say so, yeah. It's also
Pegging
an
yourself.
easy answer in a way. It's not like you have to give any real details about anything.
Right. But it does also make the most sense to me.
Yeah. So the next one is about, this clip sort of summarizes why I think technology can be so dangerous for future leaders. And I've always felt this, like everyone's just like, who cares who has the information of who's everything you've ever searched, everything you've ever looked at.
Spied on.
Yeah. The cameras and things that are evolving right now. I'll just play the clip and see how it works.
Money corruption's all right, but nobody makes a big deal about someone if they've stolen billions of dollars. So they're not highly blackmailable. But sexual indiscretions, sexual secrets, sexual deviations, someone putting on the tap dance on Sunday, but Sunday night working with the cult underground, highly desirable for a world leader. Why? Because then that person has to do what they are told. And every powerful person on the planet is answering to someone above them.
Yeah, that's interesting. That idea that the leaders are being controlled by blackmail.
That's not a new anything really that new either, but
no, it's connected with what we talked about.
Yeah, exactly. And things we've talked about before, that idea that like they're highly desirable because once you're fall into that category of sexual blackmail and also cultish activities and possibly ritual sacrifice, things along those lines. I mean, you can't get out of those situations.
Those are things that would destroy you if you tried to speak up.
Not only career-wise, but also legally.
Yeah.
You
Absolutely.
go to jail.
Well, I mean, even something as kind of like surface level as the Skull and Bones, where like we talked about some of the practices that they've supposedly go through, George Bush and John Kerry. And
so wouldn't that be kind of an argument for that technology? You know what I mean? Like, are you arguing that the technology where people...
I just feel like if you have the ability to spy on people and collect... This was slightly different than what I was thinking of. But the idea of collecting every search, there's cameras everywhere.
Right.
Like once they have anything incriminating with anyone, even if it's someone that's not a politician, but has aspirations, like say, they have some sort of looking glass technology where they can see into the future and they see this person that has this potential, like in Terminator, like the potential to change the world in a way.
Precognition, yeah.
And they have a couple things on you that you're not so fond of that you've done in your life, and they present that to you. It doesn't matter who it is. Everyone has looked up things or been a part of things that I think could cause incredible embarrassment.
Yeah.
And to have it on every person, it seems dangerous to me because the keys to that are going to be whoever's in charge or people that we don't even probably know about.
Yeah.
So
and they're already collecting that information.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the NSA that was exposed that they were collecting all that data.
At the same time, I think people's tolerance is increasing for ethical faults. I feel like people are because
Donald Trump definitely.
Well, that's a good example for sure. But I think in general, I also feel like, for good or ill, the kind of there's a moral decay that's taking place that I think is obviously bad in one way because our values are, I think, decreasing as far as our level of importance on certain values when it comes to treating other people and treating, yourself a certain way, which is bad, obviously. But then on the other side, there's that, I think, allowing people to see other people as faultable humans, where other people are also, make mistakes and come to, temptation for certain vices. Like everybody's a fucking human, So there's that, I think, that balance between...
So we're all in the same
the
hell.
Well, not a hell. That's the earth, right? It's we're that constant struggle of trying to live up to values we believe in and falling short.
So, but it also seems to sort of solidify those messages. Like you can't escape it. You might as well just swim in the muck.
The mucky muck.
Not necessarily.
That's kind of how I view society's going right now. It's just like
normalizing the.
It's just normalizing
darkness.
the grossness.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
But I know
that could be argued for sure. Yeah, I think it's two sides, though. I mean, I think at the same time, there's some puritanical things that we've gotten rid of because people are more aware that everybody has temptations they're trying to fight. You know, where we don't cut off somebody's head because he lusts over his neighbor's wife. You know, like
was that a puritanical belief?
Kind of. I mean,
when did that happen?
I mean, a long time ago. But I mean, these are an evolution of
like the harsher punishments for some of the like Old Testament kind of like punishments for
don't throw people in prison for adultery.
You don't stone
anymore,
people anymore, at least in this country.
Yeah, and I would say that's I mean, I would say that's probably a good thing.
We've tipped the scales at this point, though. We've gotten rid of those kind of things a while ago, and now we're way moving quickly into the how fast can we race to the bottom sort of humanity. That's at least the way I.
Well, I think
it
we
depends on how you
it.
look at it.
Well, I think we definitely have lost like connection with any sort of real tradition in our culture in a lot of ways.
In heavy materialism.
Yeah, and I think that people lose their grounding when that happens, and they don't really know what they're living for anymore, except for to get a better job, better career,
or
more material
instantaneous
things.
pleasure and gratification.
Because they're trying to fill a hole, and I think I struggle with that too. Like sometimes I don't. I'd like to have a little more tradition in my life, a little more connection to my heritage and that kind of thing, because I feel like that stuff, when I think about that stuff, when I think about where I came from, or being proud of a story that is part of where I come from or anything like that, where I can connect myself and say, yeah, that's a part of me. That's something I want to live up to, as opposed to like, well, I want to live up to getting a raise, or I want to live up to having
or whoever's in charge of culture at the time that you see as your hero in that moment.
Right. Yeah. Like, yeah.
I mean, our heroes in general, the mainstream culture, are not integritous people.
Well, they're just
celebrities.
Pictures. Yeah, it's all surface.
Well, yeah, that's most of like what athletes and celebrities are like. A lot of what we consider to be heroes in the mainstream culture, not mine. I mean,
well, yeah, I mean, most
think
people,
great thinkers.
A lot of people listening to this show, like,
that's
the
not
heroes would be like
them,
Jordan
probably.
Maxwell and David Icke.
Yeah,
and,
well, this is not the mainstream.
Yeah, well, I'm sure anyone listening
culture.
probably agrees with this already. Or no, not necessarily everybody, but yeah, I think
like Beyonce.
Beyond who?
Give it up.
Beyonce.
Beyonce.
Anyways, yeah. So I'm sorry. I have to pee again.
Time is out.
I didn't mean to have to cut you off there. Do you want to finish your thought? I had one more clip to play.
I did not have any more thoughts.
But this is not the same channeler, but I thought it would be a good lead into maybe a future episode with the Dogman.
Oh, really? You have a channeling?
Talking about the Dogman?
Connects to the Dogman?
It's back to Halloween.
This is another lady that channels. She doesn't channel. She lost her son years and years ago. But she has, I think she just couldn't take it at the time. And so she had to look for, a way to connect with him again. And she ended up meeting all these channelers. And supposedly her son has been like, she now has a blog and asks him all these questions about life. And
she channels her son?
No, she doesn't channel her son. She has other people come through.
Oh, okay.
And so, but she asks, it's more of like a question answer sort of thing about the universe and things like
Interesting.
that. She's like a soccer mom, but older now.
Yeah.
But that's what she reminds me of. She seems like a very like...
So how does the information come through? She's not channeling
No,
her son.
She works with other mediums.
Other mediums. Okay.
And then her son comes through the mediums.
And then she writes the blog about what channelers say?
Well, you'll hear.
Okay.
I think you'll understand.
Play it up.
Yeah.
Get to the Dogman.
All right, we are going to talk about Dogman. Now, it sounds familiar, but I've had a lot of requests for this, and I don't really know anything about it except that the name sounds familiar. I guess it's a man that looks like a dog. I mean, tell me about it, Eric.
Eric says that there is this creature that he says there's pictures of it. Has been a lot of pictures of it on the internet, and he said that some of them are very accurate. And
wait, you mean photographs, Eric, or drawings, or both?
Photographs.
Oh,
he's saying,
wow,
that are authentic. And he says that they call him Dogman, and he says them. They call him Dogman because they don't walk on their four legs all the time like
a man.
Yeah, kind of like he's telling me that they're really not from this dimension.
Oh, kind of like Bigfoot.
And I asked, and he says they're like that, but they're not as mature. And when he says mature, he says they're definitely not as peaceful. But
Well, that's
he
a
says
fact.
they're just not as intelligent, because he's telling me Bigfoot, they're very intelligent and they're very evolved. He said this one, they're just not from this dimension.
Interesting.
So, yeah, it's kind of a funny time with Bigfoot.
My first thought was like, Eric has the internet? There's pictures of him on the internet.
Oh.
Nether realm. I think, well, it's interesting because, I mean, obviously, like, if you're familiar at all with, like, the Dogman phenomenon, which we are going to get to next episode, I hope. Yes. Because that's what, I love that topic. I mean, I think there's a lot of interesting, compelling evidence for it.
You don't think Eric has the internet?
It's fun. I hope Eric has the internet wherever he's floating
He's a
around.
spiritual being. He can
He
do
lives
whatever
in
he
the
wants.
internet. He's the ghost in the machine. But yeah, no, there's, I mean, so yeah, some of that stuff definitely goes in line with, you know, some of the accounts and the reports of Dogman. I mean, there's definitely a debate, just like the Bigfoot thing. Like, are they other dimensional? Are they material? There are people that are really pissed. Like, God, just keep it out of the spiritual zone. Like, these things are the upright walking mammals. Just you know? Gigantopithecus. They're just not identified. And then there are people that are like,
totally, yeah.
So
Well, I just thought it was an interesting time.
yeah, I never thought channeling would tie in
the
with
Bigfoot and
Dogman.
Yeah,
Well, it's funny.
kinda funny.
Eric says there are.
There are Dogman.
Called Dogman.
Because they stand up.
Well, that's the thing about that. When Jeremy first got into the Dogman thing, a year or two ago,
As
soon as we were watching YouTube videos,
Was that right around when you thought giants were mountains?
Mountains? Oh, I didn't even get into that.
They're not mountains. They were
mountains.
They were giants.
They were giants. Another day.
Another day. Anyway, when you first got into the Dogman thing a couple years ago, I remember thinking like, "What? This sounds like the most ridiculous thing I've ever." A Dogman.
Yeah. Well, the
because
name
I think
just
the name.
sounds,
Well,
it
yeah.
kills it.
If you think about it that way, but then if you really like look into it, the name is what ruins it. I think for most any serious cryptozoologist, you know, initially is like, I'm not going to look into that. It's obviously ridiculous just by the name, but really the concept that there's some sort of cryptid out there that, you know. It's like, I mean, it goes back to like the Rougarou and like, you know, werewolf legends. It's all the same thing, but minus transformation, basically.
Right.
You know?
Skinwalkers.
Yeah, some really interesting accounts that we'll get into next time that are perfect for Halloween, and I think some legitimacy too. Really, like you hear some of these accounts, and you're like, it's hard not to believe.
Yeah. Well, you hear them.
Was that a mentally retarded wolf?
Yeah. Oh, I actually pictured that guy. It was sad. Mentally retarded werewolf. Well, I'm glad we touched on the Dogman. That's a good way to preview our upcoming Halloween
I thought it was a
episode.
fun little clip.
Yeah.
Nice little tie-in there.
It's a good way to wrap up this episode, kids.
Yeah,
kiddos.
So we hope you guys like this episode. Please call in to the speakpipe at beliefful.com. Write us at brothers@beliefful.com.
Follow us on Instagram.
Leave a rating on iTunes so we can grow the podcast. We enjoy doing this, and
it's continually growing. Want to grow it faster.
Share with your friends.
Bigger and brighter.
Yes. And thanks to everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks to everybody who did write in.
Yeah. One more thank you to AJ. She's covered 2 shifts for me so far, so I could record 2 episodes. So
is she a listener?
She's a big fan.
Cool.
So she keeps
thanks,
giving
AJ.
up her special time so I can come here. Her special time so I can come here and she makes
Sounds a
lattes.
little personal.
Yeah, well, I mean, everybody has their own special time.
And thanks for Jennifer for the hearts on CastBox.
Thanks for Jennifer.
Thanks for Jennifer. We heart you back.
Thank you, God, for Jennifer.
Yes. Anyone else listening on CastBox, leave us a review on there because that was sweet of her and it made our hearts feel warm.
Yes.
Yeah. And then if anybody's listening on any app platforms for podcasts, if you subscribe, you'll get immediate updates when the next one's available. So don't forget to subscribe.
Yes.
Smash that like button.
Smash that like button.
Smash it off.
Well, you guys, thanks for listening. Next time, we'll see at the end of the month, and we'll have a great Dogman episode, right?
For the spooky, spooky season.
Drive safe, everyone.
Drive safe,
Stay
buckle
out.
up. And regardless of whether or not Ouija boards are real or channeling is real, just be careful.
And also, have a good shower.
Yeah, don't forget. Clean off that dirty muck.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.